Yako notices Yago chewing knee, quickly intervening and stopping him. While Ne reacts with alarm, she calms Yago, explaining hunger understanding. Then prepares to continue moving forward, while Ne floats nearby, observing their actions quietly. Yakon checks Ne's route guidance, confirming a safe path avoiding dangerous mist, while Yago waits and Ne processes navigation data carefully. She decides to proceed quickly with Yago, aiming to leave the area before an approaching threat consumes the surrounding environment entirely. The three travel through a damaged structure, carefully moving across unstable ground, while unknown creatures surround the ruins silently. Yakon studies Ne's display, realizing the building has a hidden entrance, while Ne continues scanning surroundings carefully. They approach a tall structure. Observing its worn surface and strange markings, Yakon finds a small opening, confirming it as an entrance, then carefully moves inside while Yago follows, and Ne hovers nearby. Inside the narrow passage, Yakon asks Ne for guidance, feeling relieved by its presence, while Yago squeezes through and Ne scans ahead. As they advance deeper, Yakon suddenly pauses, reacting to something unexpected ahead, while Yago stands close, and the passage grows quieter. Yakon discovers dead creatures consumed by scavengers inside. Realizing the danger, Yakon examines the remains carefully, feeling uneasy about the area, concluding the place is unsafe. Yago reacts playfully, despite danger, nudging Yakon, while she acknowledges the scavengers are drawn by blood scent and Yago's hunger remains obvious. Yakon decides to proceed cautiously, warning Yago to stay safe and avoid attention, while Ne scouts ahead to detect possible threats further. They reach a vertical shaft, realizing the path continues upward, while Yakon considers the distance and prepares to climb with Yago following. Yakon thanks Yago for helping her climb, then watches as he struggles to fit through the narrow opening. Yago finally squeezes through tightly, collapsing inside. While Yakon observes his size and Ne hovers nearby, Yakon spots a collapsed scaffold ahead, realizing they must cross it, while Ne floats beside her and Yago prepares to follow carefully. Yakon jumps across unstable platforms, moving quickly while Yago follows, but the structure begins cracking under their weight, causing dangerous instability beneath. The platform suddenly breaks apart, dropping Yakon downward as debris falls around her, while Yago remains above. Yakon falls downward, reaching out while spotting a moving creature below, then quickly adjusts herself to react midair. She lands near a crawling scavenger, striking it immediately to stop it, while maintaining balance. The defeated creature drops into pipes below, causing a loud impact as liquid bursts out, creating noise that spreads through the area. Yakon regains footing, scanning surroundings carefully while noticing Ne observing from above, then cautiously begins moving through the pipe-filled corridor. She attacks another obstruction, clearing her path successfully, then pauses while exhausted, calling out proudly to Yago, who remains above watching. Yakon captures a large creature successfully, preparing it as food, while holding her weapon firmly. She sets up cooking equipment carefully, checking fuel, stove, and ventilation, while Yago watches closely and Ne remains nearby observing preparations. Yakon ignites the fire and begins cooking the creature, controlling the heat while monitoring the process to ensure the meal cooks properly. The creature cooks over the stove, releasing heat and steam, while its body changes texture as Yakon waits patiently beside it. She declares the meal ready, but reminds Yago to wait until it cools, while both prepare to finally eat together safely. Yakon and Yago begin eating the cooked meal eagerly, enjoying the food while steam rises. Yakon continues eating quickly, clearly satisfied, while finishing large bites without pause, showing strong hunger. Yago reacts as Yakon eats too fast, while she warns herself about choking, realizing they lack water and must be careful. After eating, Yakon decides they will rest there for the night, acknowledging Ne's help while recovering energy in the quiet environment. Yago keeps eating more food, ignoring Yakon's warning, while Yakon watches and wonders about finding simple happiness even in this harsh world. Yakon rests beside Yago after eating, planning to store food for later, while Ne remains nearby. A sudden noise wakes Yakon, who reacts immediately, grabbing her weapon while sensing movement nearby and preparing to defend herself quickly. Yakon strikes toward the source of movement, alert and focused, reacting to unexpected activity within the pipes while scanning for danger. She realizes Yago was only chewing knee again, calming down and scolding him lightly, while confirming no real threat was present. Yakon explores further ahead with knee guiding, eventually reaching a dead end, pausing as she considers their next direction carefully. They reaches a wide corridor with light ahead, noting no enemies present, and believes the path may lead them outside safely. Yakon rides on Yago, urging him forward quickly, since there is no place to hide. A large creature suddenly appears behind them, chasing rapidly, while Nei observes and Yakon continues forward as Yago speeds up. Yakon notices the creature closing in, turning back in surprise, while maintaining balance on Yago as they attempt to escape danger. The creature crashes down toward them forcefully, attacking from above, while Yakon is thrown off balance. Yakon confronts the large lizard creature, shouting for Yago, while identifying the enemy, preparing herself mentally. She declaring herself as opponent, understanding she must commit fully since fighting alone without support would be impossible. Signals Nei to prepare, Yakon coordinating timing carefully, while observing the creature's movements and waiting for the right moment to act. Yakon attacks swiftly, striking the creature and dodging its reaction, maintaining mobility while analyzing its behavior and searching for a weakness. Yakon calls Nei for assistance as the creature opens its jaws wide, attempting to attack, forcing her to react quickly to survive. Nei fires a powerful blast, striking the creature's eye, while Yakon attacks simultaneously. Yakon continues slashing the injured creature, causing it to collapse heavily, while maintaining pressure to ensure it cannot recover or counterattack. Yakon checks on Yago quickly, confirming his safety, then decides to withdraw while the weakened creature remains behind them struggling. Yakon throws bait toward the creature, using the scent of blood to distract it, while preparing an escape route with Yago. Scavengers swarm the distracted creature, attacking aggressively, while Yakon rides Yago away quickly. As the creature is overwhelmed, Yakon rides Yago at full speed, while scavengers chase them, urging him forward urgently. They rush toward a staircase-like structure, maintaining speed, while Yakon balances carefully and Yago continues moving. Yago leaps across a large gap, carrying Yakon safely, while scavengers begin losing track as distance increases. Yakon stops briefly to check on Yago, confirming he is safe. While noticing the scavengers retreat and the immediate threat finally fades, Yakon notices an injury on her arm, smiling slightly despite pain, while Yago looks at her quietly as they recover together. Yago licks Yakon's wound, gently, helping clean it, while she laughs at the sensation and Nei hovers nearby. Yakon notices Yago acting strangely, watching him closely, then realizes something important, becoming alert, discovers water ahead, Yakon rushing forward with excitement, while Yago and Nei follow. Yakon and Yago drink water eagerly, splashing around, relieved after hardship, while Nei floats quietly, watching their joyful moment together. After resting, Yakon sits quietly beside water, reflecting on their journey, understanding survival is difficult, while Yago remains beside her calmly. Yakon reflects on the harsh world, understanding hunger and danger surround them. Yet she continues forward, accepting reality while staying determined. She watches Yago playing in water, realizing that despite hardship, living beings continue dreaming, finding moments of peace and small happiness. Joins happily, Yakon embracing joy with Yago and Nei, realizing that even in a ruined world, living can still feel meaningful. Nei hovers nearby, emitting soft sounds as Yakon watches carefully beside them. In the red fog, Yakon observes strange landscapes, where giant unknown shapes move quietly beneath thick clouds surrounding everything. The world around them lies abandoned, filled with ruined buildings and silent structures, left behind after humanity disappeared completely. Yakon guides Yago carefully through debris, adjusting Nei's view to scan remains of machines and distant monster shadows moving. Finding a familiar symbol, Yakon recalls her father, opens an old book, and confirms their destination, while pointing forward. Yakon identifies the symbol as a bureau mark, confirming their location, while celebrating Nei's success together, with Yago happily nearby. They pause near the fog's edge, planning departure once visibility improves, as Nei floats quietly and Yakon rests beside Yago. Traveling further, Yakon realizes food is scarce, mentioning a problem while continuing forward, suggesting they should eat before proceeding deeper. Yakon gathers limited food supplies, noting scarcity, while Yago suddenly reacts, sensing something approaching quickly from beyond the quiet forest. Yago discovers fruit on a tree, excitedly collecting them, while Yakone smiles, realizing resources still exist outside ruined areas. Yakone decides Nei is unnecessary for climbing, warning that breaking it causes trouble, while observing the tall tree carefully nearby. Yago climbs the tree despite difficulty, causing branches to shake, but safely returns, reassuring Yakone while holding steady among leaves. A large creature appears suddenly, and Yakone quickly instructs Yago to cut a strong branch to assist the situation nearby. Using the branch, Yakone strikes firmly, completing her action as the creature is defeated and falls, ending the immediate danger. Yakone activates Nei's strobe light repeatedly, preparing to call the creature safely, coordinating actions carefully while maintaining control nearby. Yakone rides the large creature while guiding it forward, coordinating with Nei's signals, as Yago follows. Using a branch lever, Yakone applies force carefully, pushing and pulling to control the creature's head movements while it reacts violently. Yakone explains the control method, adjusting balance and force to steer the creature's motion, successfully directing it upward through the trees. Approaching the fruit carefully, Yakone maintains control while positioning the creature near branches, preparing to collect resources without losing balance. The fruit falls successfully, landing nearby as Yakone and Yago react, confirming their plan worked and gathering food from the tree. Yakone recalls past experience using insects for transport, confidently demonstrating knowledge, while Yago watches and Nei hovers nearby observing actions. They begin eating gathered fruit, sitting together calmly, prioritizing food over concerns while Yakone prepares and shares the meal with Yago. Yakone confirms the fruit is safe and tasty, continuing to eat, while Yago enjoys it, showing clear approval through behavior. Yago picks up a different item, but Yakone warns against eating it, explaining it may cause harm to the stomach. She explains the item is a seed, suggesting planting it to grow future fruit, and both agree to try it. Yakone plants the seed carefully, though uncertain it will grow, while Yago watches excitedly and Nei floats quietly nearby observing. While waiting, Yakone and Yago gather large leaves, preparing materials and continuing survival tasks as time passes before the fog clears. Yakone uses the leaves for daily needs, while Yago assists, and they rest afterward, maintaining routines within the quiet environment. Later, they relax near their camp, eating remaining food cautiously, as Yakone reminds Yago to avoid consuming everything immediately. As time passes, they sleep peacefully together, surrounded by collected supplies, continuing their calm life. While waiting for future growth, Yakone notices fewer fruits remaining, while Nei, leading her to discover a hole hidden beneath the ground. Exploring inside, Yakone finds strange objects, including a broken plate, realizing remnants of human life still exist within hidden places. Yakone confirms the location as a house interior, asking Nei for signals of others, hoping to find signs of remaining humans. Hearing no response, Yakone questions quietly, showing concern and uncertainty, wondering if any humans still survive within the decaying world. They leave the structure, continuing forward, accepting that everything is decaying, while understanding stopping such change is impossible for them. Yakone reflects that everything fades with time, as the fog clears, and they continue moving forward through the silent remains. Yago suddenly becomes excited, urging Yakone forward, while Nei follows, as something ahead draws their attention across the open ground. A small sprout emerges quickly from the ground, surprising Yakone, while Yago points it out, showing rapid growth unlike before. Yakone recognizes the sprout as similar to the planted seed, realizing it has grown, confirming their earlier idea about planting. They observe many sprouts across the land, understanding seeds are spreading widely, as Yakone questions if all growth comes similarly. Yakone laughs happily with Yago and Nei, sharing relief after their efforts, expressing joy. She thanks Yago sincerely, acknowledging his help, while Yago responds simply, and Nei remains nearby, quietly observing their interaction. Yakone reflects on the past people, expressing hope they may still exist, believing the world can become better again someday. With the fog cleared, Yakone prepares to leave, imagining returning one day when the sprouts grow and life fills the city again. Yakone explores a ruined city, observing empty buildings and abandoned streets, while moving cautiously through silent structures covered in overgrowth. A nearby machine activates suddenly, producing sounds, as Nei detects movement, alerting Yakone and Yago to something shifting nearby. Yakon checks conditions with Nei, confirming surroundings, while preparing carefully, counting steps and positioning Yago for the next movement forward. They emerge onto the surface, reaching open space, as Yakon requests Nei to guide them toward the administration bureau location. With fog gone, Yakon warns Yago about new dangers, emphasizing caution before continuing their journey together through the cleared environment. After the fog passes, the world begins changing, as strange flowing forms appear across the land. Unknown plants and creatures spread everywhere, overtaking ruins, while Yakon observes quietly. Recognizing this transformation resembles the earlier garden incident, the new life replaces everything continuously, appearing and disappearing as fog cycles, reshaping landscapes each time conditions shift across regions. Yakon moves forward carefully with Yago, noting the abnormal environment when she suddenly reacts, sensing danger approaching from an unseen direction. They stop near a broken structure, where shadows end abruptly, suggesting a boundary, as Yakon studies the area cautiously before proceeding. Yakon observes a strange creature eating another, realizing danger, then quickly reacts and strikes, as the threat moves unpredictably nearby. The injured creature attempts escape, twisting and launching itself away, while Yakon watches closely, preparing for further unexpected attacks from surroundings. A larger flying predator suddenly descends, capturing the smaller creature instantly, demonstrating a more dangerous presence dominating the transformed environment. Yakon notes these creatures avoid shadows, warning Yago, recognizing behavior patterns, and understanding survival requires caution within constantly shifting conditions. Choosing safety, Yakon asks Nei for another path, leading them away carefully, as surrounding creatures move through the environment. Unpredictably, Yakon notices creatures appearing suddenly, attacking quickly, while moving forward with Yago and Nei. Sensing danger, Yakon immediately hides with Yago, staying still among plants, avoiding detection as something large moves nearby, searching the area. A massive creature appears, towering above, crushing surroundings, as Yakon carefully observes, realizing the scale of danger has increased significantly. Yakon analyzes the threat, noting its behavior, deciding escape is necessary, while asking Nei to locate a safe hiding route nearby. They spot the bureau mark again, but hesitate, planning movement carefully, ensuring the large creature does not notice them approaching slowly. The large creature notices movement behind it, reacting suddenly, as Yakon freezes, using the bureau plate as cover. Yakon and Yago move carefully, while the creature looks away, creating a brief chance to advance safely. Yakon secures the plate successfully, acknowledging Yago's help, noting the creature's poor awareness, and preparing to move away quietly together. A strange tentacled organism rises, grabbing the plate, as Yakon notices its movement, realizing new threats are emerging from below nearby. The plate slips from Yakon's hands, and she urgently warns Yago to run, as multiple hidden creatures begin appearing around them. The massive creature discovers them, roaring loudly, as Yakon and Yago run immediately, heading toward a narrow gap to escape quickly. Yakon slides forward while holding her weapon, maintaining speed, as Yago follows closely, both attempting to avoid the pursuing creature behind. They hide briefly, but Yakon realizes it will not last, as the creature continues searching aggressively, forcing them to prepare again. Yakon understands danger is constant, thinking survival time is limited, when she suddenly hears a sharp sound approaching from above nearby. The structure breaks open suddenly, revealing a large opening, as Yakon looks up, reacting quickly to the unexpected change nearby. Yakon confronts the massive creature directly, stepping forward with her weapon, attempting to draw its attention away from Yago nearby. The creature lunges toward Yakon, opening its mouth, but she reacts quickly, striking with precision while avoiding the incoming attack. The ground shakes as the creature turns violently, preparing another strike, while Yakon maintains distance, watching carefully for an opening. Suddenly, a flying predator attacks the creature, grabbing it forcefully, interrupting the fight, and creating chaos between both dangerous beings. The predator lifts the creature into the air, carrying it away, while Yakon and Yago remain below, narrowly escaping the deadly encounter. Yakon watches the sky cautiously, then relaxes with Yago, realizing they survived, while strange creatures fall nearby. More flying predators gather, consuming the fallen monster, as Yakon observes quietly, noting how danger shifts quickly. Yakon decides to leave quickly, checking Nei's condition, when something passes overhead, drawing her attention to another sudden movement nearby. A large creature crashes down violently, striking the ground, interrupting their escape, and creating another immediate threat directly in their path. Yakone reacts quickly, deciding to take advantage, guiding Yago to move fast while the creature is distracted by its surroundings nearby. Later, they prepare food from the remains, cooking safely as Yakone reflects calmly, turning danger into survival through careful decisions. Morning came as the team foraged. Yago sniffed a cluster of berries. Yakone stopped him quickly. The fruit was toxic. She demonstrated with a blade and a careful taste for certainty. Yakone demonstrated the fruit's danger as it burst into acidic spray. Nay trembled. From a tunnel someone watched. Then a voice shouted. A figure ran toward them, excited. A human appeared. The stranger fled as Yakone shouted after him. She chased, urging peace. A sudden scream rang out. Turning a corner, she saw him suspended in the air, trapped by parasitic vines. Yakone sprang into action, slicing through the vines. Yago surged forward, body coiled for speed. The captive fell free, flailing through the air. Nei tracked him while Yakone prepared to catch. Yago cushioned the fall perfectly. Yakone fended off the remaining vines with swift cuts. The stranger stood, unharmed. Questions could wait. For now, the area was safe and the vines retreating. The stranger removed his hood, revealing a mask-like face. Yakone tensed but felt no threat. His form was odd, unfamiliar. Was he truly human, or something this world had reshaped? The armored traveler could not speak. Yakone tried asking questions but got no answer. Instead, he placed figures on the ground. She watched quietly and understood. He was alone. Yakone explained they could not help. They had their own goal. The creature nodded slowly. As they parted, it returned the gem she dropped earlier. Yakone quietly thanked him and left. Yakone walked ahead, thinking about him. He wasn't a bad guy. She wondered what he would do now. Then suddenly he called out. He had one more question for her. Yakone explained they were searching for the administration bureau. He asked if they were hunting. She answered calmly, unsure if he understood. His face revealed nothing. Talking felt like guessing shadows. Yakone laughed while brushing Yago. The moment turned awkward when the creature poked Yago's back. Startled, Yago charged ahead. Yakone scolded him lightly. Nei explained Yago was shy about being touched. Yakone offered her weapon to help him climb. He accepted without hesitation. Together they reached the top. She pointed out bread trees nearby. He agreed they should rest there for now. With food supplies low, Yakone baked fresh bread. The scent filled the air. She handed out pieces carefully. They all ate together. She watched him chew slowly, still unsure of him. The creature's saliva reacted strangely with the bread. Yakone scanned it carefully. It wasn't toxic, but clearly incompatible. She sighed. He couldn't eat their food. Their worlds stayed far apart. Yakone offered a blanket. He was not someone they could easily live with. Still, she cared. She curled up beside Yago. Before sleeping, she apologized softly for Yago's earlier fear. The next morning, Yakone searched for him. She found him reaching for strange fruit. Her eyes widened as he bit into it. She shouted in panic. That fruit was dangerous. Yakone watched, confused. He ate the fruit without issue. When she tried, it reacted badly. She stared at the mess it caused earlier. Smiling lightly, she admitted they were too different. Yakone and the creature held hands firmly. Yago sniffed the air, signaling something. They prepared to move forward. Yago spotted his favorite fruit, but Yakone worried it might not be safe. Yakone stared at the fruit above, too high to reach. Nei studied the wall. A strange shadow oozed closer, crawling silently. Both paused. It moved without sound or shape. The shadow stretched upward and plucked the fruit. Surprised, Yakone watched it float down. Nei picked it up. They sniffed carefully. After checking, the group tasted the gift cautiously. The fruit must have been strange. The big creature collapsed. Nei quickly grabbed its head, eyes wide. Yakone ran over, panicked. A faint trail of smoke drifted upward nearby. Smoke rose toward the glass ceiling. Yakone and Nei stared upward, hoping someone might see. A memory returned. Nei spotted shapes in the distance. Yakone whispered softly beside her. The smoke worked. A group arrived, dressed like Nei. They spoke kindly. Yakone handed over the seed. A gesture was returned. Parting smiles followed. The journey quietly resumed again. They watched the group leave without answers. Names were never exchanged. Even so, something changed. Yakone smiled quietly. In silence, they gained something important. The journey felt less alone. They climbed slowly, step by step. The stairs were steep and endless. At the top, Yakone collapsed. Everything felt massive. A ramp would have helped. The journey was exhausting. Everything towered above them. The stairs, the pillars, even the cars felt built for giants. Yakone paused beside Nei. The shadow returned. Still unsure, they moved forward together again. They entered a silent room. Figures towered around them, frozen in place. Not statues, not alive, Yakone whispered. Nei stayed close. The forms loomed without sound. They felt watched. Yakone stepped closer, spear in hand. The figures were still. Moss clung to their surfaces. She reassured Yago. Nei watched in silence. They looked like statues, but felt wrong. Yakone struck one statue with her spear. It didn't flinch. She smiled, relieved. But Yago cried out. Behind her, one of them had moved. Something had finally reacted. A strange machine zipped by, brushing close. Yakone and Yago hit the ground fast. It didn't attack. Confused, they watched it glide past. It had no interest in them. The strange machine paused, then spun again. Yakone noticed the floor shining. It had cleaned up the debris. Curious, she ran after it. It wasn't hostile, just busy. Yakone and Yago climbed onto the cleaner. It zipped off wildly, spinning across the floor. They held tight. It wasn't gentle, but it listened. Yago felt dizzy from motion. Yakone tossed scraps ahead. The cleaner followed eagerly. She laughed, calling it hungry. It worked just like bait. The mannequin stood silently nearby. For now, they were safe. The cleaner carried Yakone through a dense hall of mannequins. Some were bright, others darkened with wear. None moved. Still, their placement felt too organized. Eyes felt present. The statues looked human, only larger. Yakone connected the pieces. The roads, the stairs, the machine, they all fit these figures. She leaned forward, questioning the cleaner like it could answer. Yakone wondered aloud about the vanished builders. Their machines still moved, but the people were missing. Yago grew tense. The statues lacked features. They reminded her of something recent. Yakone noticed some statues stood in silly poses. She mimicked one and laughed. The tension eased a little. Even Yago relaxed. Maybe these shapes weren't meant to scare. Yakone spun among the statues, smiling. Their raised arms looked like a dance. Yago joined in. For a moment they imagined the giants were joyful, not distant. The cleaner halted. Yakone nearly slipped. It refused to cross a faint line. Just before the trash it turned and sped away. Yakone called after it, but it vanished. Yakone watched the cleaner disappear. It followed orders even without masters. She whispered goodbye. Someday someone might return. Until then, they would keep walking. It was time to move on. Yakone asked Nei if he knew what happened here. The old relic only beeped. She sighed. The world was confusing, but she felt certain about one thing at least. Yakone and Nei stood at the edge, gazing across the vast ruins. The truth was simple. Whatever happened, this place had once belonged to giants. They had walked through lifeless towns, tracing faded maps and broken signs. At last, the admin bureau appeared. Yakone paused, unsure if their journey had reached its final turning point. As they neared the gate, Yakone studied the symbol. It matched the amulet given by the white-hooded ones. Maybe it was a key. Nei's sensors blinked curiously nearby. Suddenly, Nei jolted forward without warning. Yakone called out, chasing after. The air shifted. Something unseen responded to Nei's presence. The bureau wasn't just a building, it was awakening. The entrance stood sealed like the others. Yakone scanned it again. Nei waited nearby. Nothing responded. The symbol matched, but no sign of power. She crouched to examine further. Nei pointed its lens toward a corner. Yakone noticed a connector port out of reach. She mixed ingredients and chopped roots from her pack. Nei hovered closer as she prepared. Yakone poured the mixture and pressed it down. Nei waited near the amulet. They watched it dry. Finally, she stood and gave the signal. Nei activated the pad without delay. The door opened. Yakone's eyes widened. Nei hovered excitedly beside her. She called out and ran inside. That small amulet had really been the key. Their path was finally open. They found a staircase that moved. Yakone looked to Nei for answers. Nei beeped confidently. She stepped on. They descended together, reaching a floor that seemed forgotten, but strangely intact. The hallway stretched ahead. Yakone asked Nei what this place was. A strange noise came from behind. She turned. Something was coming fast. The ground shook as it charged forward. A loud machine appeared ahead. Yakone called out in surprise. Nei rushed forward. As the door opened, she followed quickly, unsure if they should even step inside at all. They entered the vehicle. Yakone asked Nei what it was. The door suddenly closed. The machine started moving. Nei remained calm. Yakone looked out nervously, bracing as the ride began. The view outside changed fast. Yakone gasped. Nei confirmed it moved toward the bureau. She spotted its symbol and asked if that was really their destination. Nei beeped in response. Yakone cheered with Nei. They had made it. Relief filled the air. She thanked Nei and remembered the white-hooded ones. The ride had ended, but her thoughts kept moving. Yakone sat quietly. She hadn't expected the journey to end so soon. Nei beeped gently. There was still more to do. This wasn't their last destination after all. Yakone held the photos of old friends. Her father once told her she could find them here. She smiled at Nei. Yago's friends were waiting somewhere too. The train slowed to a stop. Yakone stepped out with Nei beside her. Ahead stood the tower, her eyes lit up. They had finally reached the administration bureau entrance. Yakone shouted with excitement. She challenged Nei to race her to the entrance. They ran, but something changed. The steps ahead seemed blocked. A strange presence stirred without warning. They froze. A twisted figure stood near the base. Its body looked broken but alive. Yakone stepped back slowly. Nei hovered silently. The air around them felt completely still. Yakone stepped closer. The figure was not a machine. Nei hovered nearby. She realized someone had done this. It was cruel. Nei and Yago waited quietly for her decision. Yakone ordered Nei to find another way in. She told Yago to hide. If danger came, they had to run. She handed Yago a tag, then sent them off. Yago followed the path away from her. Nei scanned the area for hidden doors. From the brush ahead, someone was watching. Yakone had no idea what was waiting nearby. Yakone and Yago approached the bureau tower again. She noted the land was unaffected by the fog. Real trees remained. She wondered if this place could become a home. Yakone scanned the area. No red fog, no birds. But a giant white bear burst out. She reacted fast. Her blade came out. The fight started without warning. She dodged and planned to reach the forest. A loud thud came from the side. Someone landed nearby. Yakone turned quickly, unsure if they were friend or enemy. The stranger stood silent, holding a strange weapon. Yakone asked if they were human. They didn't answer clearly. She couldn't understand their words. Tension hung as no one moved. Suddenly, the figure warned her to leave. They spoke her language briefly. Before she could reply, they disappeared through the black liquid. Yakone called out, but got no response. Yakone stared at the ground. Nei confirmed they were gone. Still, she couldn't turn back. They came for answers. She pressed forward, determined to reach the bureau at last. Yakone entered the narrow hall. Nei followed behind. She read through her father's notes. Strange fruits grew along the walls. She searched carefully, hoping to reach the data room soon. Yakone found text about colonies and regeneration units, but a loud stomp interrupted her. Another giant bear appeared. She began to wonder if the fog had reached here first. They moved deeper. More signs of creatures appeared. Maybe this building held more survivors. Yakone hoped to meet them. Nei agreed. They both wanted to eat something good together. Yakone entered the data room. Screens lit the walls. Nei explored while Yakone searched for the console. She promised Yago she'd return soon. The machines were confusing without guidance. Nei helped activate the interface. Yakone found no colonies or units, but a map appeared. Before she could study it further, something strange growled from the hallway behind them. They escaped just as a monstrous creature entered. Yakone caught her breath. They weren't done yet. She told Yago there was still something important left to finish inside. Yakone pointed to the center. That was their destination. Nei explained the red fog could be stopped using a device. They entered deeper, searching for the control room together. The center smelled strange. Yakone stepped closer. A giant door stood ahead, pulsing like flesh. Figures gathered below it. She realized something was happening at the base of the structure. More shapes appeared around the platform. Someone began a ritual. A drip echoed through the room. Yakone watched silently. Then something started to move. She gasped, heart racing. The figure changed shape. Yakone stepped back as it grew. Circles formed in the air. Nei's data confirmed it wasn't alone. Yakone realized something bigger was happening below the surface. A fleshy door opened. More figures stood nearby. Yakone saw them creating the creatures. That explained their numbers. She questioned who they were and what the door was for. Another monster charged forward. The crowd didn't move. Someone from earlier appeared again. Nei readied its cannon. Yakone narrowed her eyes. The person with the weapon had returned. Yakone saw the enemy blasted back. She gasped as it crashed into the ground. The door pulsed again. The same attacker struck it directly. She shouted, realizing it was regenerating. The figure used the same weapon the White Hoods once had. Yakone noticed a strange shadow. Below, the body began reforming. Even the door was repairing itself quickly. The figure saved them. Yakone told Yago they needed to go now. Tentacles reached from the walls. The white-hooded ones watched silently as the tower reacted to the attack. Yakone burst through the gate. She found the figure collapsed. She checked if they were okay. Nei confirmed it. Tentacles approached fast. She shouted for Yago to hurry and move. Yago cried out. Yakone scolded herself for getting hurt. The door behind them released thick smoke. It spread across the ground. Yakone caught her breath. Something felt dangerously familiar. She stared at the cloud. It looked like red fog. Her eyes widened. The ground began shaking. Nei hovered close as the tower cracked and trembled under the pressure. The building started collapsing. Yakone grabbed on tightly. Yago was with her. The ground shook as she yelled. They needed to move fast. Rubble fell from above without pause. Yakone praised the stranger. She told them they saved her. She tried to help. Yago pushed forward. She shouted to hold on. She wanted them all to survive. She cried out. Yago jumped. Stones crashed behind. Yakone reached out. The building finally gave way. Everything was falling. She just wanted to be with them as a friend. The land fell silent beneath the fog. Nei stood watch. Yago slept beside Yakone. Questions remained. Who caused this? What comes next? Only the child below might carry the answer. Yakone remembered her father's warning. He told her the sky outside was gone. He called the world hell, but she still wanted to see it with her own eyes. She finally reached the surface. The land her father feared was full of fog and broken towers. Yet to her, that strange place looked peaceful and even beautiful. She walked alone through stone ruins. No one was there. This world, wild and unknown, was full of strange creatures. Still, she kept going forward without turning back. This world was where Yakone met her friends. Even with fog around them, she stayed hopeful. Yago and Nei were by her side. That alone was enough to keep going. Yakone believed the fog would clear. They were alive, and they weren't alone. Nei found a place to rest. She wanted to help the child and learn their name. They stood in the heart of the disaster her father once feared. Still, something felt peaceful. She looked around and quietly wondered why the view felt so pleasant now. Yakone discovered a mysterious being lying unconscious in the shelter. Its form was unfamiliar but peaceful. She checked for wounds, unsure if it was friend or foe. She treated its injuries with care, noting the body's fragility. Its silence worried her. Wondering about their differences, she blushed upon realizing it wore nothing beneath the wrappings. Leaving for supplies, Yakone entrusted Nei to guard the stranger. Her thoughts lingered on the warmth of another presence. A faint rustle behind her hinted it had stirred. Yakone climbed carefully into the crumbling structure. She secured the rope while checking on Nei. A sudden thud caught her attention. Something large had stirred beyond the ruined walls. Outside, the giant creature loomed far beyond the city remains. Yakone stayed calm. Nei signaled readiness. Days had passed since the last collapse. They needed to move quickly again. With Nei leading, Yakone crossed the fractured bridge. Fog rolled around them. An ominous shape hovered above. They ducked for cover. Survival now depended on staying unnoticed and alert. Yakone and Nei moved into a sheltered area. The red fog behind them swirled with danger. Here, they could rest. But they knew safety would not last for long. The forest ahead was strange. Twisted plants covered the ruins. Nei scouted while Yakone followed. They avoided thick clouds of red. Some mushrooms were poisonous. Most spots had already been searched. Yakone sighed and sat. Supplies were running low. Nei signaled from ahead. She ran to check. The ivy potatoes were gone. Options were shrinking. They had to keep moving. Yakone found strange crops again. Though not poisonous, they had once caused trouble. Still, she gathered them. Better something than nothing. Nei followed, quiet but alert to the surroundings. Inside the shelter, Yakone pondered the world's silence. Fog changed everything, yet no one knew how. She questioned if things transformed or disappeared. Nei stayed close, always watching her. She joked about becoming a monster, but Nei's panic made her pause. Laughter returned. Nei spotted a ceiling crack. Curious, Yakone agreed. There was always something waiting above. Yakone entered a sealed space, hopeful the fog had not reached it. Inside, she found shade peaches. They were scarce, but untouched. She picked carefully, heart full of hope. Just as she turned, a creature darted in and stole one. Yakone chased it. Food was precious. Nay followed. The fruits were few. They needed a better plan. Yakone threw scraps as bait. Hiding nearby, she waited. The creature returned and took the lure. She smiled, relieved. At least tonight there would be something warm to eat. The creature returned, drawn by the bait. Yakone stayed hidden, watching closely. It worked. She tossed containers, distracting it. Nay stayed alert while she prepared for the next step. The loud noise stunned the beast. Yakone moved quickly, uncertain if it was edible. Nay doubted it. Still, the sound was helpful. The opening gave her a clean shot. With the creature handled, Yakone rushed back. They had fruits and peace for now. She called to Yago with a tired smile. Another small victory for their strange journey. Yakone returned with supplies, reassuring Yago. She hugged him, feeling guilty for leaving. Nothing had changed with the child, but food was ready. They were together again, for now. They prepared the creature for cooking. Yakone worked efficiently, cutting and slicing, while Nay helped. Skewers were loaded, the fire was ready. At last, a real meal could begin. As they grilled the meat, the sleeping child finally stirred. Startled, Yakone turned. A voice demanded answers. The mysterious one had woken, standing alert and wary, blade in hand. The stranger woke up confused, blade in hand. Yakone quickly explained. They had found her wounded. She seemed unsure but lowered her guard, slowly recalling pieces of what happened. She lost balance, still weak. Yakone helped her sit. They offered food and comfort. She hesitated, then accepted. For now, they were not enemies. There was warmth in the air. Together they shared the meal. The stranger, though quiet, joined them. Her hands trembled. Yakone smiled, relieved. They all ate in silence, soothed by the simple warmth of food. They sat together around the fire. Yakone smiled, feeling at ease. She asked for the girl's name. After a moment's pause, the girl replied gently. Her name was Lulu. Lulu's words touched Yakone deeply. No one had said her name in a long time. She tried to speak, but tears fell first. Nay and Yago watched silently nearby. Yakone reached out to Lulu with a quiet heart. In that moment, two strangers became friends. For Yakone, it was a memory she knew she would always keep. Yakone, Lulu, and Yago sat by the fire. The fog remained thick outside. Still, something had changed. With new trust forming, they could finally take the next step together. Lulu taught them how to handle the new plant. Yakone and Nay followed step by step. They peeled, squeezed, and prepared. Even without words, Lulu's guidance was easy to follow. Yakone tried identifying familiar fruit, but they were different. Some were unsafe. Lulu warned them quickly. Together, they examined, tested, and shared. Even new food could be figured out carefully. After soaking and heating, the plant expanded and softened. Yakone tasted it first. It was chewy and sweet. Everyone joined in. Around the fire, their trust continued to grow. The fog was thin, but Lulu warned them not to wait. Yakone agreed to go while Yago stayed behind. They gathered their things and prepared for a quick trip. Yago watched as the group left. Lulu explained her plan to collect food and water before the fog returned. Yago nodded quietly, choosing to rest but still alert. Left alone, Yago stirred. He crawled toward something nearby, nose twitching. A small object caught his attention. He sniffed cautiously, unsure. The stillness around him suddenly began to shift. Yago noticed a small item nearby. He grabbed it and brought it to Yakone, earning praise. Encouraged, he wandered further, spotting something high up in a ruined structure. He climbed carefully, reaching the upper ledge. A rope stretched across the gap. Slowly and with effort, Yago crossed it, each step measured. He reached the other side safely. Darkness spread ahead. Yago moved deeper, eyes sharp. A distant glimmer flickered. Curious, he sniffed the air. Something was out there, something quiet and alive that didn't smell like fog. Yago slipped while sniffing near the edge. He tried to hold on, but fell. His paw grabbed the nearby pack. With effort, he caught a ledge just in time. Hanging on tightly, Yago bit down on the strap. His small body shook, but he didn't let go. Inch by inch, he pulled himself up with the pack. Reaching the top, he stood proud and unharmed. With the pack secured, he chirped happily. Alone for now, he trotted forward, eager to show what he found. Yago wandered into open land. Everything was still. The silence stretched wide across the plain. He looked around, uncertain. Something about the air felt strange. He called out softly. There was no response, just rocks and dust. Then a tremor. The ground shifted. A large insect burst from beneath. Yago froze. Instinct kicked in. He ran for cover. Dodging debris, Yago reached a rock and dove behind it. The monster churned the ground behind him. It grew louder. The air swirled as something massive began rising nearby. Yago heard a distant sound and rushed toward it. Hunger took over. He found wild fruit and ate too fast. Yakoni scolded him gently, worried about unknown plants. He ran again, overwhelmed and restless. Lulu and Yakoni chased behind, calling out. Yago stopped, confused. Then he noticed something strange lying nearby, half buried in dust and vines. The object twitched. Yago pulled on the strap, cautious. Thin tendrils resisted. He tugged harder. Whatever it wasn't part of the ground. It was moving on its own. A large worm-like creature burst from below. The rucksack rolled. Yakoni and Lulu called out for Yago. He was nowhere in sight. Panic set in as they searched the area. Yakoni spotted Yago gripping the bag by a rope. She pulled him up with care. He had chosen the rucksack, thinking it mattered most. Yakoni felt something deeper instead. She hugged Yago tightly. He had scared her. She reminded him never to leave without warning. No object mattered more than him. What mattered most was staying together. They rested together quietly. Lulu glanced at Yakone. Curious. She had never seen someone care so deeply for a creature so different. The moment felt simple, but meaningful. Yakone explained that Yago had been her first companion outside. Lulu wondered if understanding mattered more than appearance. Nay watched, silent but included. They sat with trust growing stronger. Lulu spoke with care. She had a story to share. It was about her village and the one responsible for the fog. The truth had to be told. Lulu began her story. Her home was far away, inside a tall building marked with 3 lines. Yakoni listened closely. It sounded like another branch of the administration bureau. The building was large and mostly safe. Fog sometimes crept inside, but monsters were kept out. They lived near the front, protected by thick walls and working machines. The engineers maintained the systems. With the elders' help, they made tools. One was a weapon called gun, used by Lulu. Their first warning came when contact was lost. 1 month passed without deliveries. When smoke appeared near the neighboring village, 5 people were sent to investigate. Lulu was among them. The village feared fog might have reached them. Supplies were packed onto a mecha horse. Lulu traveled with her brother and the others. It was a 2-day journey through the old waterways linking both places beneath the surface. The route was detailed and used often. Still, it was dangerous. Strange creatures moved along the paths. The team stayed alert, watching every corner as they followed the map closely. They found a massive creature underground. It wasn't supposed to be there. Lulu shouted, "Many of them!" Her team raised their guns and opened fire while hurrying through the danger. By the 2nd day, they saw light. The exit was unexpected. Lulu noticed the path was gone. "The building's not there," someone said. Everything looked unfamiliar. Something was clearly wrong. "We should go back," Lulu's brother said. But just as he finished, the fog crept up. Thick and quiet, it surrounded them from below. They were already too late. As the fog rose, tentacles emerged and attacked. 2 team members were taken instantly. Lulu acted quickly, aiming at the ceiling. Their only hope was to collapse the path above. The explosion sealed the opening, stopping the fog and monsters. But the cost was high. All the mecha horses were lost in the collapse, leaving the team stranded underground. Their return became difficult. New holes had opened, letting more monsters in. With gun batteries nearly empty, they avoided confrontation, pushing forward carefully through the unstable ruins and spreading fog. When they returned, the village was unrecognizable. The buildings were wrapped in red ivy, and the streets were silent. Everything was still. It no longer felt like their home. They searched the area and reached the observatory. A masked figure stood near a strange metal door. No others were in sight. The silence made the air feel heavier. Lulu asked for answers, but the figure said nothing. Then she noticed the door. Behind it, many eyes watched her. Whatever had changed the village had already taken root. In a sudden act, Lulu's brother shoved her away. He was struck by spikes before her eyes. With no time to process, she fled as he begged her to run. As Lulu escaped, masked figures emerged. More were coming. The doors opened, and tentacles poured out. Her friend pulled her forward. They were outnumbered. The entire village had changed. A gunshot broke the ground beneath them. Lulu fell into debris. Separated from the others, she climbed out alone. With no one left, she ran. The gun was hers now. After escaping alone, Lulu saw her village consumed by fog. Her search led her to Yakoni's group. Shockingly, Yakoni's old village and Lulu's home had both marked the same symbol, Lulu realized every location tied to the administration bureau used that 3-line mark. They decided their next destination would be the units and colonies. They needed to uncover the connection. While the fog lingered, they began preparing. Supplies were sorted, rest was taken. Quiet moments passed between them. Together they waited for a clear path to continue the journey. The group finished building new gear. Shields, packs, and supplies were ready. Spirits were high. Yakone smiled. Lulu joined them, carrying her rucksack. Their next journey was finally beginning. Lulu laughed, but the smile faded. Memories of her village returned. She felt guilt for smiling. Her family and friends were gone. The pain sat quietly behind her eyes. Yakone spoke up. Smiling didn't mean forgetting. Everything Lulu taught them had value. Her survival, her strength, her care, all of it mattered. That memory still lived in them. Lulu thanked Yakone quietly. She remembered the friends she had lost. Now, with new ones beside her, she faced forward. The fog had cleared. It was time to move again. Their goals were different, but their path was the same. Together, they stepped into the open land. The next destination waited. The journey forward had finally begun again. Yakone collected metals from the old machine while Lulu watched closely. They worked together smoothly. Yago carried the loot with ease. Language lessons had helped them understand each other better. They entered a silent building buried by time. Lulu explained the village elder's teachings. Yakone hoped to speak with more people one day. Her words began to match his memory. Yakone noticed a strange symbol etched in stone. Lulu warned her of the Taiko tribe. They were dangerous. Still, with metals in hand, they moved forward, careful but not afraid. The Taiko tribe blocked their path without warning. Yakone stood firm. She offered metals to pass peacefully. The tribe refused, shouting that old deals no longer mattered to them now. Before Yakone could react, they were surrounded. Heavy steps followed angry words. The group was captured. Inside a cage, they watched the Taiko eat, grabbing supplies without care or respect. Yakone tried reasoning again. She pointed out their own metals, but the tribe ignored her. Their leader demanded silence while they feasted. The group stayed trapped, thinking of their next move. Yakone realized the tribe hated outsiders. They claimed their god once answered prayers through metals. But now silence remained. Blaming the oracle, they chose to rob and capture passing strangers. Yakone learned that Taiko forced people into labor. They ignored work and devoured stolen food. When one eyed Yago as a meal, Yakone stood up, shouting she would crush them herself. Guards dragged Yakone outside the cage. One challenged her to prove herself. If she succeeded, they might let the others go. Inside, Lulu and Yago watched in quiet worry. Yakone walked alongside the Taiko guard, arguing about pace. They reached a large temple. He called it the dwelling place of their god and ordered her to speak on their behalf. He claimed her words resembled divine speech. Yakone agreed to try. She opened the door. Inside, it was dark and silent. Then, loud music welcomed her to something unexpected. A glowing sign read, "King Burger." A digital voice asked if she would eat inside. Yakone hesitated, then replied with confusion. She stepped forward, unsure what this place really was. Yakone touched the machine. It asked for menu and payment choices. Confused, she realized the machine used metals. The Taiko believed this strange service was a sacred act from God. Burgers appeared like a miracle. The tribe celebrated wildly. Yakone called for her release. The chief refused. He wanted more food. To them, she had become the voice of God. Yakone demanded freedom. The chief laughed. He threatened to eat her friends unless she continued serving meals. Frustrated but cornered, Yakone clenched her fists as the tribe yelled for teriyaki. Yakone returned to the machine but felt uneasy. Nay snuck out and found a panel. Curious, Yakone opened it. Lights turned red. The machine issued warnings. Something had gone wrong. Yakone triggered an alarm. Security bots activated. A message ordered compliance. Lights flashed. Sounds blared. Yakone froze as mechanical voices echoed. The temple started shaking. The tribe noticed the disturbance. The Taiko panicked. Machines surrounded them. Guards shouted in fear. They believed their god was angry. Chaos erupted. Everyone screamed as the bots advanced. Yakone was still inside alone. Lulu and Yago watched the chaos unfold. Yakone returned and freed them. They escaped together. As they fled, she grabbed one last burger, unsure if it meant trouble or victory. The group sat down, exhausted. They tried the burger. It was their first, and it tasted great. But later, stomachaches hit them hard. They regretted eating it so quickly. The fog reached the tunnels. Yakone, Lulu, and Yago searched for shelter. They spotted a building nearby. With no better choice, they decided to check if it was safe. They entered carefully. No one responded. The house seemed empty but well kept. Yakone suggested staying alert. Lulu noticed signs of recent activity. Someone had definitely been living there recently. Lulu found the backyard. Plants there remained healthy despite the fog. Suddenly, a cry echoed through the air. Yakone jumped up, recognizing the voice. Yago was in danger nearby. Yakone rushed to protect Yago. A strange creature stood inside. She held her weapon up. Unsure, the creature flinched, not attacking. Lulu arrived, thinking Yakone needed saving, and charged in. Lulu attacked, but Yakone shouted for her to stop. The creature showed fear, not aggression. Yakone believed it could understand them. It might be more than just a monster. Everyone froze. The creature turned away silently and shut the door. Yakone and Lulu were stunned. For now, the strange being chose not to fight or flee again. The creature returned quietly. Yakone and Lulu stayed calm. It nodded, showing it understood. It offered a fruit. Cautious at first, Yakone decided to try it and smiled. Yakone said it tasted fine. Nei confirmed it was safe. The creature brought more food. Lulu was overwhelmed. Yakone explained their journey and asked if they could stay temporarily. The creature paused, then nodded again. It accepted their request. A warm moment passed between them. Despite everything, this place might be a safe stop on their path. Everyone was surprised by the meal. The table was full of warm food. The creature nodded quietly. Yago started eating without hesitation. Yakone wondered if the food was really safe. Yakone thanked the creature. Lulu stayed cautious but didn't object. The creature hesitated when asked to eat. It gestured, and a small glow formed, showing it had its own meal. Yakone smiled, relieved. The creature took its own portion and began eating too. The mood calmed. Under the lamp's soft light, the group quietly enjoyed dinner with their new host. Yakone and Yago rested peacefully. Lulu checked the room. They found a hidden box under the bed, carefully wrapped. Inside was a painting of a family they had never met. The painting showed 2 adults and 2 children. They wondered if the family had once lived here. Lulu questioned if the monster replaced them, but the creature wasn't in it. They decided the item was important and returned it to its place. Even without answers, they felt it should stay. The house held memories neither of them could explain. Lulu woke in the night and noticed the creature moving. It went to the backyard quietly. There, it placed stones gently, near a small patch where flowers had once grown. Watching silently, Lulu realized the creature resembled the people in the painting. Maybe it had changed. In the morning, Yakone thanked it. The group decided it was time to leave. They stood at the door. Yakone expressed their gratitude again. The creature stayed quiet. They had been given shelter and care. Refusing that kindness now would not feel right. The group prepared to leave. The creature spoke softly, calling out for its mother. Yakone gave a warm hug and promised they would return someday. A quiet farewell followed. As they left, Lulu admitted she guessed the creature was the one from the painting. The signs matched. The fog must have changed her, but memories still remained. Yakone wondered aloud. If the fog changed others, could it happen to her too? If she lost her form, would her friends still know her? Would she be left alone? Yakone felt unsure, but Lulu reassured her. No matter what happened, they would still know each other. Holding hands, they moved forward. Their bond remained strong, even in uncertainty. A group of children ignored warnings and entered the forest. They joked and argued along the way. One tripped, and soon they discovered something strange hidden beyond the trees. They reached a strange wall and a panel. As they touched it, a monster appeared and attacked. Yakone was grabbed. The others froze, overwhelmed by fear and confusion. The children had grown up in safety. But beyond their village, the world was broken. Machines and ruins spread everywhere. Outside their home, danger had been waiting all along. A world beyond the wall was ruled by bizarre monsters. From there he had come. Inside the village, someone called out, asking the man to return quickly with supplies. He brought back antibiotics, telling the boy to deliver them to Sue. The villagers thanked him. He reassured them the medicine and rest should help. Then Yakone hugged him tight. They visited the graves. He apologized for leaving her alone often. Yakone smiled and said she had friends, family, and the whole village. She wasn't lonely at all. One day, a hole opened in the sky. From it came her father, the first outsider the village had seen. At first, everyone feared him and didn't understand. He brought tools and knowledge. Slowly, trust grew. They called him the Hellwalker. Still, no one knew his past. At night, Yakone often asked him to tell her stories. She begged to hear more. He gave in with a smile. The stories were dark and real of giant ruins, monster attacks, and everything outside their peaceful world. Her father told stories of a world ruined by fog. Though dangerous, they fascinated Yakone. He once came from that place. It was far away, beyond her familiar home. They talked beneath the open sky. He described stars and the moon. Yakone asked if he would return. He said no. He lost the path back a long time ago. That night, Yakone couldn't sleep. Lulu noticed and asked. Yakone quietly said she was just remembering something. It was a memory from long ago that still lingered in her thoughts. Yakone remembered her father's words about coming from the moon. She wasn't sure if it was true, but she liked the idea. Morning came. They woke and prepared quietly. The team set out again, moving deeper underground. Strange structures and creatures filled the area. Ahead of them stood a massive building, unfamiliar and alive. Their next challenge had begun. Yakone's father was an engineer and a doctor. He taught the villagers how to survive and use machines. He also brought back supplies from outside, always thinking about others' needs. He searched for another village, hoping to reach people beyond their own. Yakone remembered his quiet words. He may have been trying to reach the moon or a higher place. During his time at home, he trained Yakone. He taught her how to hunt, how to hide, start fires, use tools, and survive in a world full of danger. Yakone's father taught her how to survive treating wounds, avoiding danger, and reading maps. He recorded everything from his travels and warned her about the red fog that spread destruction. He passed on every skill she would need to survive outside the city. One day, the sky turned red. A strange sound filled the air, shaking the peaceful village. The villagers gathered, confused and scared. They turned to the Hellwalker for answers. He said it was a warning. Something had gone wrong. Without hesitation, he left to investigate. The villagers listened to Yakone's father. He told them to stay inside and avoid unclean water. He gave Yakone a charm and strict instructions before heading out again alone. Yakone promised to stay safe. Her father left for the outside. She rationed food and water, following his teachings. Most of her time was spent resting, conserving strength indoors. Yakone stared at the red sky. Without changes, she lost track of time. Day and night no longer existed. She began wondering how long she had truly been waiting. Yakone heard the knocks again. She tried to believe it was just the wind, but this time felt different. A voice called out, and her fear quietly grew inside. She wondered if it was her uncle or someone from the village, but her father's words echoed. No matter who it was, she must not open the door. Yakone gripped the charm and prayed. Suddenly, the door broke apart. A monster burst in and struck her. She fell hard. Someone cried out her name as everything turned dark. Yakone was saved in time. Her father arrived and defeated the monster. He apologized for being late. They packed quickly. She changed into the gear her father had prepared. They planned to avoid the village. Yakone remembered the monster's headband. It belonged to Kata. She wanted to help. Her father said no one in the village had survived. They saw someone moving. Yakone asked again. Her father said that person was no longer human. As he spoke, Yakone noticed tears falling quietly from his eyes. Yakone and her father reached the tunnel leading outside. He explained the red fog had started entering. He gave her something and told her to head for the administration bureau. Yakone learned everyone was stored in the device. Her father told her to find people who could help revive them. But he wouldn't go. He planned to stay behind. He would seal the path and stop the fog. Yakone cried, but he told her to live. She had his equipment and teachings. He just wanted her to survive. Yakone cried as the path behind her was sealed. She walked forward with tears. In time, she found friends, faced beauty and danger, and kept moving through the world. Yakone stood on a platform, remembering. Lulu found her. Yago and Nei were resting nearby. Everything felt stable for now, and the key meant they had a safe place. They looked out over strange structures. It was hidden until now. Lulu said it might reveal even stranger things. Yakone silently wished her father could have seen it too. Yakone looked around the bustling community. She remembered her father and smiled softly. Surrounded by others and no longer alone, she realized this world had kindness too. It wasn't all cruel. Yakone wiped her brow after chopping wood since sunrise. With no time to rest, she stacked the logs carefully, determined to keep her promise to help repair the strange ship. Finished, she called to the others, proud of her work. Inside the ship, mysterious food shimmered. The masked one claimed it all, ignoring their deal about sharing if they worked. Yakone protested but got no answer. The masked figure muttered instead, chewing alone. Then, without warning, a giant hand grabbed her from behind. yanking her toward the forest in panic. Yakone collided with a tall creature while walking through the crowded dock. Tension rose quickly but faded when the group refocused. Hunger remained the biggest problem as food supplies ran low. She sat beside the hippo-like man, both unsure what to do with the strange fruit. A stranger appeared, asking entry. Yakone watched the ship bustle with people from many places. The guide explained how the cruise shipowner gathered travelers and made stops near feeding villages. Yakone listened closely, curious yet uneasy about trusting a ship she could not steer herself. After saying goodbye, Yakone returned to the dock. Yago had made a new friend. She smiled quietly, surprised he could connect with anyone so easily even in such a strange place. Yakone went out while Yago rested. Curious about Lulu's activities, she followed signs toward a crowded market filled with food, tools, and traders, selling everything from dried meat to weapons. In a quiet corner, Lulu examined a machine. She asked a vendor for batteries. The vendor hesitated. A stranger appeared and offered help, watching her work with quiet interest. Lulu examined the crossbow closely while discussing power sources with the merchant. Despite their efforts, none of the offered batteries matched the old cable connector she needed for activation. The merchant offered fruit bullets to maintain power. Lulu exchanged a dried slice for them. Meanwhile, Yakone wandered nearby until Lulu rejoined her after finishing the trade with success. Just as they regrouped, a loud thumping interrupted them. Yago's panicked cries echoed. They turned quickly as a massive creature charged toward them with Yago tumbling helplessly in front. Yago ran frantically through the crowd as a large angry creature chased him. Lulu and Yakone rushed to catch up, alarmed by the commotion and the brute's loud shouting. The creature finally caught Yago, grabbing him tightly. Yakone arrived just in time and struck him without hesitation. She pulled Yago back, checking for injuries while the crowd gathered around. The creature cried loudly, claiming innocence. Yakone defended herself, pointing out his rough handling. As tension rose, the creature's child appeared, revealing a misunderstanding. Yago and the kid quietly reconciled. The creature's child hugged him tightly. Everyone around was stunned. Yakone realized her mistake. The creature had only been trying to protect his child, who had mistaken Yago for family. Yakone and the child both apologized. Yago chirped in response, calm again. As peace returned, Lulu laughed quietly. They said goodbye and watched the two head off into the crowd. Yakone wondered how such a small child could have a massive parent. The world still felt strange to her, but she smiled, curious to keep learning what lay ahead. The ship approached a tunnel marking the final stretch to town. Suddenly, the ground shook. Alarms rose as the earth trembled. Something was wrong. The tunnel ahead started to collapse. A violent rumble shook the entire vessel. Lulu and Yakone steadied themselves. No one around understood what was happening. Panic spread fast as dust clouds erupted from the tunnel entrance. The crew shouted instructions while sirens echoed. Passengers were told to gather at the main plaza. Yakone looked around, trying to stay calm as emergency lights lit the hallway. The crew informed everyone they had until nightfall to leave. The earthquake destroyed the tunnel ahead, cutting off their planned route. Panic spread as people argued about changing course. The ship's light mechanism was damaged by debris. With no working guidance system, safe navigation was impossible. Passengers demanded answers, afraid of the next town and the dangers outside. Some tried offering risky ideas while others debated. Yakone listened as strangers argued. One calm man stepped forward, offering help. His claws could dig and guide without relying on light. The crowd agreed to test a new light source. Volunteers stepped forward. Yakone and Lulu watched as people gathered tools, determined to lift the collapsed area and support each other. Yakone hesitated but chose to help. Lulu stood beside her. They were no longer strangers. They had shared meals and moments. Everyone worked with quiet resolve to make progress together. As orders spread across the ship, passengers headed out. Yakone paused when someone called her name. The message was clear. Together they would stand, ready to protect what mattered most. Yakone discussed new ideas with Vorch. They planned to hang reflective items from Nay to enhance light. Sparkly materials could draw attention. Yakone agreed to gather shiny stones from everyone. Vorch had doubts about cooperation. Yakone was hopeful. They began discussing who might donate the most. Someone came to mind, but they were nowhere to be found in the area. Elsewhere, a masked figure moved quietly between crates and corridors. He dragged something large behind him. Others in the hall remained unaware, focused on their own tasks and conversations. The masked figure reached a hidden door and slipped inside. After a moment of stillness, he launched upward with a flap. Yakone saw him flying and shouted in surprise. She grabbed onto him mid-air, both crashing to the ground. Shocked, Yakone realized he had wings all along. She urged him to help. Frustrated by his refusal to assist earlier, the figure hesitated. He didn't want to lose his precious shinies. Yakone reasoned with him. If the plan failed, escape was still an option. If it worked, he'd be remembered. Yakone promised praise and more shinies if he helped. The masked figure hesitated, then agreed. As they shook hands, he muttered quietly, unsure if he had made the right choice. With the tunnel destroyed, the ship's crew urged passengers to prepare, those choosing to stay focused on emergency repairs. The shipowner remained silent, adding pressure as the situation grew urgent. Lulu and the team experimented with salvaged lights. Their first setup failed, overloading the batteries. After reducing the number of power sources, they created a working beam strong enough to help. The working light encouraged everyone. Yakone visited the repair area to check progress. Yago struggled with cables but got help. Everyone contributed, knowing their success depended on teamwork and precision. The crew attempted to lift a large central screw mechanism to progress repairs. Despite their effort, it remained jammed by debris. Their strength alone was not enough to move it. A new group arrived, offering assistance. One of them suggested using claws to dig through the jammed base. The team hesitated but allowed them to try a different approach. With surprising efficiency, the newcomer shredded the debris using his claws. The obstruction cleared quickly. Dust settled as the crew looked on, relieved that progress could finally continue without delay. After clearing the debris, the diggers explained their choice to help. They valued the ship's role in supporting everyone's survival. Their work allowed transport and food supplies to continue. Working together, the team finally unjammed the massive screw. Cheers erupted as the sealed section opened. Suddenly, the ship began to move again, signaling that the shipowner had reawakened. An earthquake followed the movement. Yakone and Lulu braced themselves. Just then, a crew member delivered the replacement light. They rushed to install it before the ship entered the tunnel. The new light was installed and tested. Its brightness filled the chamber. The crew prepared to reflect the beam using a mirror, hoping it would reach and guide the shipowner. With the ladder broken, the crew searched for a way to reach the platform. Small chibi creatures volunteered and began stacking together to form a living tower toward the mirror. The tower of bodies wobbled as one climbed up. They barely reached the mirror but couldn't adjust it properly. The structure was too unstable to finish the task alone. Yakone stepped forward, confident in her light weight. Climbing swiftly, she reached the top. With teamwork holding below and Yakone above, the group prepared for the final part of the plan. Yakone reached the platform. Below, the team celebrated. She struggled to see through the intense light but finally spotted the control handle needed to direct the beam toward the shipowner. With careful movement, she adjusted the mirror. The redirected light burst forward in a focused beam. The crew watched in anticipation, hoping the signal would guide the ship to safety. The beam struck its target, lighting the shipowner. At first, there was no response. Yakone watched nervously. Despite everything working, the ship's course still hadn't changed as expected. A burst of light scattered across the ground. Lulu fired a signal shot, joining Yakone's effort. The beam finally reached its mark with full strength, striking the ship's core. Yakone anxiously waited. The ship trembled and slowly began to shift. At last it responded. The gathered group's effort had successfully changed the vessel's course, avoiding the collapsed tunnel. Relief spread among everyone on board. The shipowner had noticed the lighthouse. Small actions, shared struggles, and quick thinking had led to survival. Together, they had changed the path ahead. The ship's path was secured. Surrounded by cheers, Yakone realized how everyone's strength made it possible. That day, she truly understood how much people could achieve by standing together. As the ship traveled onward, machines scanned the landscape below. Their next destination appeared on the map. Deep valleys and broken structures hinted at both opportunity and danger ahead. Yakone and Lulu prepared to enter Red Valley. The region held signs of old research activity. Despite warnings of danger and strange attacks, they remained committed to uncovering the truth. Locals warned them of red fog and violent groups. One recognized their target. Yakone's resolve didn't waver. Even when someone stood in her way, she chose to keep moving forward. As Yakone prepared to leave, a merchant demanded repayment for past help. She insisted she would return after completing her task. Others stepped in to support her departure despite objections. A familiar elder quieted the crowd. They understood Yakone's mission mattered. A parting gift was handed over with firm instructions: return it later. It was both aid and trust. Yakone accepted the food, thanked them, and made a clear promise to return. With supplies packed and friends beside her, the next stage of their journey finally began. As they walked, Yakone joked about debts while Lulu observed quietly. The group's mood was light, but the terrain ahead was shifting, signaling they were finally entering Red Valley territory. Strange plants surrounded them as the ground turned red. Warnings about the red fog returned to mind. They prepared to move carefully, aware of the growing danger in the air. Suddenly, thick fog burst forward. They tried to flee but were interrupted by a voice. Yago reacted instantly. Yakone turned, startled by the sound she hadn't expected to hear. Yago stood still as a large insect-like monster emerged from the fog. The creature lunged fast and wrapped around him. Yakone and the others quickly moved in to respond. Yago waited for Yakone's signal. At her shout, he struck back. Their counterattack distracted the creature long enough to create an opening. They pressed forward with precision and speed. The monster was thrown off and crushed in the skirmish. Yago was shaken but unharmed. Yakone checked on him and the smaller creature, making sure both were safe after the fight. Yago chased something ahead, leading the group through strange terrain. They spotted wind flowing through a narrow path. With the red fog closing in, they decided to climb up quickly. The group emerged into a safe space. The fog couldn't reach inside. Yakone looked around, relieved. The open air and broken ruins reminded her of home, bringing a brief peace. The group discovered a peaceful area, with clean water and edible fruit. Yakone searched through the trees, wondering where Yago had gone. He had wandered off, drawn by something unseen. Yago found creatures resembling him hidden in the tall grass. Curious, he observed them closely. They shared similar traits but had differences too. Yakone arrived, surprised by how many there were. The creatures approached and sniffed Yago. One slipped while moving close. Yago watched quietly. Though they looked alike, something still felt unfamiliar. Yakone stayed back, unsure how they might react. Yago was surrounded by similar creatures. They accepted him without hesitation. From a distance, Yakone and Lulu watched, realizing he had found a place where he naturally belonged among them. Though Yago sat with the group, he remained close to Yakone. She wondered why he hadn't joined fully. Gently, she encouraged him to spend more time with those like him. Yago headed over quietly. Yakone smiled, knowing he needed this space. They set up camp nearby. This valley, untouched by fog and full of kin, might be his peaceful haven. At night by the fire, Yakone and Lulu wondered if it was time to leave. Though they had food, Yago hadn't returned. The silence made the decision harder. They considered whether to leave Yago with his kind. Lulu reminded Yakone it was his choice. Yakone remembered how they met a strange, quiet creature who followed her journey. Yago had once been cautious and distant. Over time, he grew attached. Feeding him had built trust. Now, Yakone faced a new question, whether staying or leaving was right. Yakone recalled how Yago became her first real friend. At first, he was just survival company, but in time, she named him and realized she could never treat him as food. Lulu asked what Yakone wanted for Yago. Yakone replied simply happiness. If this place offered safety and peace, then it was the best outcome. They had found what mattered. They prepared to leave without saying goodbye. Yakone thought it would hurt less that way. As they moved, they realized Yago wasn't among the others. They hesitated, unsure what it meant. Yakone gave a cheerful goodbye, believing Yago had chosen to stay. As they neared the tunnel, they felt calm knowing they had done what was best for their friend. But just before leaving, Yago appeared. Yakone asked why he came. Yago had made his choice. Though he found friends, Yakone had not. His place was still beside her. They promised to return, together. Yago's friends understood. It wasn't a farewell. It was a continuation. One day they'd come back, but for now, they'd face the journey ahead. Lulu looked up at the sky, thinking of every place they'd been. With each journey, the world felt a little more open. Now, there were more homes than one. The valley stretched wide as Yakone watched the sky. The mission neared its end. She quietly dropped supplies, ready to leave behind what once mattered most. They walked beneath giant mushrooms. Lulu hopped beside them. The weapon barely worked, but Yakone stayed calm. They discussed. The valley stretched wide as Yakone watched the sky. The mission neared its end. She quietly dropped supplies, ready to leave behind what once mattered most. They walked beneath giant mushrooms. Lulu hopped beside them. The weapon barely worked, but Yakone stayed calm. They discussed energy loss, trusting they could repair it if truly needed. From the cliff's edge, the three saw the end. Familiar hills returned to view. Yakone smiled faintly. The road had been long, but the goal was finally close. They arrived at a strange structure marked with a familiar symbol. Yakone studied the map. If recovery tech remained inside, it might help finish their journey faster than expected. The entrance was blocked. Monsters circled nearby. Nei's signal beeped. The small device pointed to a wall. Yakone hesitated but trusted it. She prepared the explosives without speaking much. The charge cracked the wall and formed a narrow bridge. Nei gave a nod. Yakone smiled and lifted a hand. Their teamwork held strong in every new challenge faced. Nei moved quickly ahead while Yakone and Lulu caught up. The door clicked open. Inside, dim corridors waited. Their goal remained uncertain, but time pushed them forward without pause. They entered cautiously. The place was larger than expected. Yakone questioned the odd energy in the air. Nei noticed the signals were more scattered than usual. They kept going. Lulu led the way through narrow paths. Yakone followed a faint sound and reached behind a grate. A small device was found. Nei asked calmly if it would be enough. The tunnel stopped at a sealed wall. Explosives would not help. Yakone pointed to a cable. Nei might connect through the slot and bypass the lock system from inside. Nei linked the cable. The mechanism responded and the door opened. They moved forward as the lights flickered on. A long tunnel stretched ahead. Yakone quietly followed behind Lulu. Yakone asked about Nei's nature. Lulu explained what little she knew. Nei was different from others. As voices echoed nearby, Yakone warned them both to stay quiet and alert. The group spotted strange figures and a large creature guarding the path. Yakone whispered about the triangle heads. They needed to act fast before those figures noticed their presence. Red fog thickened the deeper they went. Lulu monitored the air while Nei scanned forward. A huge figure blocked the door. It pounded the wall but could not break through. They considered retreating, but no safer path existed. Yakone made a choice. The monster roared nearby. Yakone confirmed the plan. They waited for the distraction. Nei had marked a weak point. Everyone prepared as the signal would begin with one controlled blast. The wall shook after the blast. Yakone watched the monster shift toward the noise. Lulu spotted the target. They rushed forward. The plan was working. They only had seconds. Yakone mounted Yago and charged across the rubble. Lulu followed close behind. Nei opened the next gate. The team moved fast before the enemy regrouped. They reached the entrance safely. Yakone saw the enemy forces react. They were closing in. The door mechanism began to shift. Nei worked fast, but the delay risked everything. Time was running out quickly. The door cracked open. Yago jumped through. Lulu followed behind. Nei stayed behind to finish the task. Yakone shouted for him. They needed to seal the door from inside. Lulu launched the final round and sealed the gate. Fluid sprayed as the creatures were cut off. Silence followed. They caught their breath. The door held for now. They paused to breathe after sealing the gate. Yakone praised the team. Lulu checked for red fog. Inside was clear, but something strange was already crawling across the corridor. The mass pulsed and shifted. Yakone recognized it as something the monster expelled. Lulu raised the gun. Before she could fire, Nei alerted her. The weapon had lost power. With no charge left, Lulu prepared a manual canister. Nei quickly provided the backup cell. Time was short. The creature continued growing. They had to act without delay. Lulu quickly connected the backup unit. The weapon powered up. The creature advanced. She aimed and fired. The shot hit directly. The threat was gone, but something else felt wrong. Yakone thanked Nei for the support. Lulu stayed quiet. Nei had stopped moving. The final battery may have drained completely. Yakone checked for damage while Lulu stared at the ground. Yakone tried to stay hopeful. Nei could restart if recharged. Lulu looked away and apologized. The silence around them felt heavy, but they knew the mission still had to continue. They stood at the next door. Nei's last message lingered in Yakone's mind. The door opened. Beyond it was complete darkness. They stepped forward carefully, relying on memory and trust. Yakone recalled Nei's scan. It showed no danger. Still, caution remained. They tapped the ground with each step. Silence surrounded them. Lulu kept alert while Yago stayed near Yakone's side. Their metal tools echoed through the corridor. A sudden sound interrupted the pattern. Yakone's blade struck something solid. Everyone paused. The object ahead was not part of the floor. A tall figure stood silently ahead. Yakone held her weapon, unsure if it was alive. It stared without moving. They approached slowly, unsure what reaction it would show. Suddenly, the figure shifted. Lulu stepped forward. Yakone prepared to defend. Then it spoke calmly. It addressed them as friends. Its voice was quiet but clear within the silence. The figure introduced itself as Nei. It smiled gently. It called Yakone its first friend and revealed the truth. He was the last human still left on the planet. Inside the sealed chamber, empty capsules lined the walls. Evidence of past panic remained. Smudged handprints and silent hallways told of something that ended without warning. The place was abandoned. Faint breathing echoed through the control room. A voice pleaded for connection. A drone activated. It scanned for signs of life and detected movement. It moved quickly toward the signal. The drone flew through rubble and arrived near a collapsed structure. Yakone stumbled into view. She hit the ground hard. Her heart pounded. The drone paused and scanned her closely. Yakone sat up and asked if Yago was all right. They had fallen far. She spotted something unfamiliar nearby and wondered how they would climb back up to the surface again. The drone moved suddenly, startling Yakone. She braced for an attack but paused. It didn't seem hostile. She spoke aloud. Maybe it could understand human words. The drone stayed still. A screen activated. Yakone studied the pattern. It looked like a map. Recalling her father's notes, she said most machines were friendly. The drone spun forward, clearly asking them to follow. Yakone asked the drone its name. She found text on its body and read it aloud. Nei responded with a beep. From that moment, the name Nei stayed with them. The humanoid Nei confirmed the name still applied. Yakone asked what it meant to be the last human. Nei offered to explain what had happened to the planet and people. Nei explained that many humans were created to adapt. 2 plans guided that design. Yakone claimed to be human, but Nei told her she was something made from what humans left. Nei explained Yakone and the others were designed smaller. Lulu asked about the second plan. Nei said it aimed to open a dimensional gate and draw energy from another world. Nei explained the plan had succeeded, but the results were devastating. The whole connected to a horrible realm. From there, red fog emerged and began to affect everything it touched. Those who contacted the red fog began to transform. Lulu and others were likely altered by it. The fog also changed beasts into monsters and spread throughout the entire city. The triangle heads came after the chaos. The fog swallowed the city. Nei said the city was all that remained. Yakone quietly asked if there was anything more beyond it. Yakone wondered if other humans were still alive. Nei said there was no contact but mentioned Yakone's father came from the moon. A chance remained that humans still existed there. Nei believed the moon had a system to send someone like Yakone's father. He asked Yakone to entrust him with the gene pack so they could try revival. Nei explained that revival must be careful. The red fog had already corrupted many. Believers of the fog had infiltrated the recovery unit and posed a serious threat to everyone. Nei confirmed a shuttle was still active at the edge of the city. He planned to walk there through the metro line and carry records of humanity's miniaturization. Yakone asked if she could be revived. Nei quietly said no. Her past contact with the red fog made it unsafe. Still, he memorized the route and remained determined. Lulu questioned Nei's preparation. Nei responded confidently. He carried water, a weapon, and knowledge from Yakone. With her trust, Yakone smiled and gave her answer. She would believe in him. Nei entered the sealed area. The system confirmed no contamination. He carefully took the container holding the soul data. Yakone explained those were the villagers. Nei understood the responsibility. Yakone and Lulu placed their trust in Nei. He accepted the task to deliver the souls to the moon. But alarms suddenly echoed. An emergency alert filled the chamber. Nei turned as systems blared. Red fog had entered the quarantine zone. Triangle heads had broken in. The facility was no longer safe. Everyone had to act quickly. A massive creature twisted through the fog. Nei ran from the wave. In the distance, the triangle heads gathered. Beneath them, a dark hole widened and swallowed the landscape. The triangle heads stood silently as energy formed beneath them. A surge burst upward. From within the pit, a giant maw opened. The red fog began to surge outward. Lulu and Yakone saw the alert. The red fog had reached their zone. Lulu shouted at the monitor. The emergency was real. The danger had fully arrived. Nei stared at the growing pit. Triangle heads gathered near its edge. Yakone demanded the map. They were at the building's lowest level. Time was short. The control room was targeted. They realized Nei couldn't reach the metro if enemies blocked the elevators. Lulu noted the creatures could only enter through small openings. Yakone asked if there was another way out. Nei admitted energy was limited. Yakone asked for help. Nei offered to return the gene packs and stay behind Yakone, and Lulu refused to abandon him without trying something first. Lulu urged them not to give up. Nei offered to guide a route around the enemies. Yakone realized the enemy's strength came from numbers. They needed allies to fight back. Yakone remembered something important. The building might still have robotic soldiers. They could be used. Nei admitted he didn't have control authority. Yakone explained it came from her father's notes. Nei said Yakone's father could control robots. That allowed him to travel. He had passed that knowledge to Yakone. Nei reflected that her father prepared her to face the outside. Nay asked if Yakone had ever received an injection or transfusion from her father. She paused. Nay explained she might carry power. Lulu called out as Yakone stood silently. Yakone entered the room as instructed. Nay guided her to the platform. Lulu and Yago waited nearby. Nay reminded her to remove metal items before the scan began. Yakone hesitated but climbed up. She admitted it felt scary. Nay reassured her there would be no pain. She found the light above. The system began initialization and countdown. The process ended quickly. Yakone stood, unsure what had happened. Nay confirmed it was finished. She stepped outside again, wondering what that brief flash of light had actually done. A sudden signal flashed. Yakone looked around in confusion. A message confirmed network connection was complete. She stared at the display as floating panels appeared clearly in front of her. Nay explained the panels were retinal projections. Only linkers could see them. Yakone's connection was successful. The system recognized her as an administrator with access to level 7 city functions. Yakone asked why this was happening. Nay explained her father's blood gave her the required clearance. The nanoneats had now activated fully. She was authorized to control the city system. Yakone looked around the control center. Nay explained it was the same view her father once saw. This was the world he had helped protect. She now understood it clearly. Yakone reunited with Lulu and Yago. Lulu asked if she gained power. Yakone smiled and confirmed it. The system now recognized her freely. The city was now her ally. Nay said Yakone could activate security. She hesitated but was encouraged. Nay told her the machines would obey. She only needed to ask. Her authority was already acknowledged by the system. The triangle heads gathered silently. From within the dark chamber, a strange organic weapon extended. They raised their arms in unison. Something stirred below, reacting to the summoned energy. Suddenly, an explosion burst through the walls. Metal shattered. Energy discharged wildly. The weapon's tentacles snapped as beams of force shot forward. The triangle heads recoiled in confusion and shock. Yakone activated the system. With firm eyes, she stood ahead. Machines obeyed her will. She finally understood what the city meant. This was how she would use its power. Yakone shouted for the machines to fire. Tentacles burst from the enemy. Riding Yago, she pushed forward through the swarm. Lulu stayed close, keeping her weapon ready to strike. Yakone urged Pike to keep going. With each swing, they cut a path. Tentacles lashed out but were blocked. As more enemies approached, Yakone braced herself for the next clash. Yakone assumed they cleared the area. But as she turned, a sharp noise came from behind. Something flew at her. A surprise strike landed before she could react. Lulu fired without hesitation. Yakone warned her to be careful. Yago dashed forward on command. Nay contacted them mid-run. Yakone assured her that Nay's power helped her stay safe. Nay confirmed reaching the metro safely. The red fog had not entered yet. Nay wanted Yakone's group to escape. He would block the path and stop the triangle heads. Yakone told Nay everything would be fine. The machines supported her now. Nay asked if she could follow the route. Yakone nodded confidently they would reach their goal together. Yakone shouted to change direction. Nay had reached the underground path. The gate closed behind him. In the tunnel's darkness, Nay reflected quietly, watching their movement from a distant monitor. Yakone pleaded with Nay not to act distant. She reminded him they had always worked together. Nay apologized to Yago and Lulu. Her words reminded him of their true bond. Nay acknowledged her trust. He assured they would reach their destination. With one last message, he thanked Yakone. The connection ended, and he continued alone toward the metro's interior. Yakone confirmed Nay had gone ahead. Lulu wondered if he would make it. Yakone praised humanity's strength. The group approached the evacuation exit. Yakone called out for the back door. The door granted access. Yago burst through. Suddenly, sensors detected movement. Yakone shouted for them to stop. An enemy presence triggered alarms. A masked figure emerged from the shadows. The triangle head stood motionless. Yakone and Lulu readied their weapons. Lulu recognized the enemy's form. Though masked the same, something felt different. The spirits reacted unusually to this figure. Yakone spotted the data. The screen labeled the triangle head as Research Chief. Suspicious, she questioned it. The system still treated it as human, yet its presence didn't feel human. Yakone was stunned it could speak. It expressed curiosity about her administrator-level access. It claimed to be investigating humans. Yakone demanded answers. The triangle head ignored her question about its name. Yakone asked why it spread the red fog. The figure responded with vague justification. It claimed humanity's ruin was misunderstood. Yakone remained cautious, sensing something deeply wrong in its reasoning. The triangle-headed figure judged Yakone's will to survive as rare. Though her body was flawed, her spirit was strong. It offered her a revelation, the secret truth behind the world. Long ago, the world overflowed with magic. Plants thrived with power. Dragons, spirits, and giants shared the land. Everything lived in balance. This forgotten age shaped the ruins Yakone explored. As time passed, dragons shrank to snake-like forms. Trees lost strength, spirits vanished, and resources dried up. Humans turned to science, replacing magic with false knowledge. But that did not last. Many people, once giants, lost their power and shrunk. Lacking magic, their bodies weakened. They believed in science, unaware they were made through engineering. Yakone quietly watched history's truth unfold before her. A forgotten gate was uncovered. Inside it, researchers discovered the red fog, a source of ancient power. It promised to restore life to its original state through magical regression. Creatures exposed to the red fog began to return to their primal forms. A researcher declared it a return to roots. Others questioned the cost of such ambition and change. They debated loss and sacrifice. One girl challenged their actions, recalling a destroyed hometown. Just then, a figure appeared. He recognized her and called her one of the natives. She shouted in anger, demanding answers about her missing friends. The masked figure calmly replied. Their forms had changed, but he claimed it was part of a greater purpose. He insisted her friends had only returned to their rightful state. Shocked, she saw the transformed beings. Behind them stood the sacred gate, spreading the red fog across the chamber. She snapped. Swinging her blade, she struck without hesitation. The others joined the fight. Machines launched attacks. The room erupted with commands and firepower as resistance to regression took hold. The battle escalated. Blades clashed and fists collided. The transformed giants attacked with raw strength. The defenders struck back, holding their ground. Suddenly, a massive explosion burst through the chamber. The explosion cleared. Lulu ran through smoke and debris, breathing hard. Yakone called her forward. Together they moved toward the exit, guided by memories, hope, and the need for answers. Riding Yago, they reached the next area. Yakone recalled the powers linked to Lulu's village. The signs were undeniable. The red fog's trail had led them straight to the truth. The masked figure returned, alive. Lulu panicked. Yakone struck with force. He withstood it without pain. Shocked, they prepared for another round. This time, neither planned to hold anything back. The enemy trapped Yakone with thick cables. Lulu screamed, unable to help. Yago lunged but missed. The masked figure observed calmly, intrigued by Yakone's lack of transformation signs. He praised her soul strength and called her special. Yakone struggled, choking against the restraints. Lulu panicked. Then, Yakone's pendant sparked. Her eyes widened with a sharp, focused glare. With a sudden burst of energy, Yakone broke free. Blades flew from her arms. The cables snapped. Her final strike landed, sending the attacker crashing into the rubble below. Yakone's attack landed with crushing force. The masked figure collapsed, surrounded by shattered tiles. Energy surged from the ground. She gasped as the floor cracked beneath her, shaking the entire chamber. The energy exploded outward. Yakone was thrown into the air. Lulu and Yago rushed in. They watched helplessly as debris scattered. Yakone's body dropped toward the approaching shockwave. Yago caught her midair. Lulu pulled her close. They held on tightly as the ruins crumbled behind them. Safe for now, they prepared to leave the chaos that remained. They escaped through the tunnels. Yago rushed forward, carrying them both. Lulu praised Yakone's power, but Yakone was weak and dizzy. Her eyes closed slowly as her body started collapsing. Yakone drifted in darkness. Her body ached. Her thoughts slowed. As pain spread, she wondered about Nei. Her mind reached out, searching through the network, hoping for a response. Signals flickered through the city. Yakone's thoughts followed each node, scanning for a familiar trace. At last, the path cleared. A distant signal responded, pointing toward the spaceport. Nei recognized her voice and turned. Seeing Yakone's image, he smiled. She had made it through. Reunited across the system, their connection sparked hope once again. Yakone traced the network to reach Nei at the spaceport. They reunited through the screen. Nei prepared the shuttle, assuring her it was still flight-ready for departure. Nei smiled, grateful to see her again. He asked for her real name. Yakone hesitated. She had no answer. She questioned her past and what she truly was. Yakone revealed her origin. She was a clone from the revival unit. No memories. No real identity. Maybe not even human. Still, she searched for truth and connection. Ne thanked Yakone for giving him a name. With that name, he felt real. He promised to meet again, and asked her to greet Yago and Lulu for him. Yakone slowly opened her eyes. Lulu and Yago were waiting beside her. She had collapsed after the escape. They had taken shelter in a quiet cave and stayed hidden. Yakone had slept for 2 days. Lulu smiled, relieved she had recovered. The roles had reversed from their first meeting. Now Yakone was the one being cared for. Yakone sat in silence. Her arm was no longer human. Fur and claws replaced her skin. She stared in disbelief, heart racing, unsure when the change had even begun. Yakone looked at her hand, now fully covered in fur. Lulu noticed the change. Yakone tried to dismiss it, but concern lingered. Yago responded cheerfully, unaware of the shift. Yakone confirmed the signs. Her body was transforming. Blackened nails, hardened skin, and growing fur matched old omens. Lulu asked if they could see the sky. Yakone agreed immediately. Together, they followed the rocky path through the cave. Light poured in from above. Their steps quickened. Yakone kept moving forward, holding on to hope despite what was changing inside her. Lulu pointed ahead. They reached a cliff with a clear view. Yago began a countdown. Together, they watched the sky as a launch trail cut through the clouds. A ship rose high above the city. Yakone smiled, recognizing Ne's departure signal. He had left safely. She felt relieved and proud, watching his journey begin beyond Earth. The trail faded. Yakone sat quietly beside Lulu and Yago. Her mission was complete. She wondered what to do next and considered returning Yago to his original home. Yakone knew it wasn't over. The triangle heads remained. So did the door of flesh. She planned to return after sending Yago home. Her promise to Uncle still mattered. A massive door loomed ahead. Lulu gasped at its size. It was the door of flesh. The group paused. This one structure could change everything if left unchecked. They realized the door connected to the administration bureau. Triangle heads were likely inside. The door used humans as material. If opened, it could flood the city with red fog. Yakone stood firm. If they did nothing, everything would vanish. Lulu offered support. This battle wasn't hers alone. It was for everyone's future. Together, they chose to stand and fight. Yakone raised her voice. She called on the city and its people. With Ne's support and their will combined, she asked for the strength to protect what still mattered. A massive figure landed before them. The city responded to her call. The final battle was beginning. Yakone, Lulu, and Yago faced the towering threat without hesitation. Crowds gathered near the door of flesh. It had grown larger than anyone imagined. Yakone stood ready. This was where everything began and where the world's shape could change. She looked inside. What she saw surprised her. Beyond the grotesque entrance, she sensed peace. A glimpse of what the world once was before it lost its balance. The grotesque god stirred within. The door cracked. Strange creatures emerged. Yakone braced herself. If this was the original source, then they had to confront it to reclaim everything. Chaos erupted as energy rained down. Yakone rushed forward, dodging blasts. Machines and beasts clashed. Explosions shook the field. Her eyes stayed locked on the core where the enemy waited. Yakone launched her blade. Others moved in formation. The masked figure returned to the front line. The battle spread across the ruins. No one could afford hesitation now. Attack waves hit the door of flesh. Explosions cracked its surface. The grotesque god behind it stirred again. The final confrontation had truly begun across the broken land. Yakone watched the door of flesh regenerate. Even with damage, it healed instantly. Lulu and Yago arrived safely. She confirmed their readiness while Yago finished setting up the escape route. Yakone launched her next attack. The masked figure laughed, saying destruction was futile. He claimed their resources were endless. But Yakone had something else planned. She moved without hesitation. The generators exploded. The ground shook. Shocked, the masked figure yelled. Yakone stood firm and declared there was no longer any way to revive. Their regeneration had been completely stopped. Gunfire rained down. Yakone stayed focused. The masked figure declared their return to the Great Era. Yago moved carefully. A device was placed. The enemy didn't notice until too late. He realized something was wrong. Yakone questioned if another target could finish it. She struck again. The dragon's neck hadn't healed. Her voice cut through his illusion with sharp truth. The enemy mocked her fears. He promised to reveal their era. Yakone was thrown into a vision. Trees wilted. Animals vanished. What remained were towers. This was their final world. As humanity declined, it ignored the warnings. Only hunger remained. Their vision was clouded. The masked ones knew collapse was near. Their answer was not salvation, but a reset to origin. Yakone descended into light. They would restore the old world. From it, a massive creature emerged. She stared in shock. The form defied understanding. Her heart raced with dread. Yakone saw the creature's eye. A single glance threatened to consume her mind. She struggled to look away. She realized it was a hallucination but still feared its pull. Yakone struck through the wave of attacks. Her blade sliced forward with resolve. Wings of power spread wide. She shouted not to decide the world's future for others. She soared through the enemy's assault. Her voice echoed. The choice belonged to everyone, not just the ones in control. She would protect that right with everything she had. Facing the masked figure, Yakone stood tall. She declared her resolve. Unlike him, she would never give up. This world still had meaning. She refused to abandon it. Yakone flew steadily. She had seen the world's pain. The masked figure challenged her again. But she carried memories of the world they lived in, not just visions of the past. She admitted not knowing his despair, but she knew hardship. Exiled from her hometown, she had faced the collapse of everything familiar. The world had already ended for her once. She remembered the harsh land. There was no food, no water, only danger. She feared lizards, monsters, and death. Even now, her opponent urged her to embrace destruction instead. Yakone shouted her truth. She liked this world. There were bugs that tasted like prawns, fruits, and bread trees. Even among chaos, she had met both kind and difficult people. She remembered tall buildings and silent friendships. She had wandered through the red fog and still found beauty. To her, every moment, every person, even the strange ones, mattered deeply. The masked figure questioned her. How could she remain human after walking through the red fog? How could she use magic? Yakone had no answer, but her will stood firm. Yakone refused the accusation. She never combined with monsters. The enemy shouted about bloodlines. He demanded to know how it was possible. She remembered the grilled meat. It all clicked. The enemy pressed her. Sensing she knew something, Yakone shouted they had eaten it. Cooked and shared, it was meat. They were starving. That was their reason. Survival came first. He paused. Yakone reminded him that hunger drives all life. Even he must understand that. Then she turned, preparing to escape. The eye followed her. The chase began again. The masked figure shouted the creature's nature was too strong. He rejected them as comrades. Calling to the god, he begged for the door to open and return the world. The door of flesh responded. It creaked open as fog poured out. Yakone screamed for him to stop, but he welcomed it. To him, this was the new world. A massive blast shook the land. Smoke filled the sky. A new presence emerged from the opened gate. Yakone watched in horror. Something beyond form had begun to arrive. The fog thickened. The door rose high. Yakone stared as tendrils spread. Suddenly a pulse surged. She flinched. Something shifted. The wind had changed. The balance was no longer stable. She shouted that the wind reversed. The fog and tendrils were being pulled inward. The flow was collapsing. Around her, the air howled as the door pulled everything back. She heard voices. Not just one, many. People's presence echoed through the fog. The masked one turned, eyes wide. He recognized it. Yakone flew toward the sound. The white-hooded ones appeared. The masked man demanded loyalty, but they said nothing. He cursed them all. Yakone, watching, declared the world belonged to those who still wanted to live. Yakone launched a final blast. The masked figure shrieked as his form withered. She collapsed from exhaustion, but a sound caught her attention. The ground cracked beneath her feet. Rocks shifted. She heard Q's cry. Yago and Lulu were nearby. Hope returned to her face. She called their names, smiling. The end had not taken them after all. Yakone flew through falling debris. Lulu slipped from the ledge. Without hesitation, Yakone dove. Her wings cut the air. She reached Lulu in time and wrapped her tightly in rescue. Holding both friends, Yakone yelled for them to hang on. Q leapt beneath them. Together, they flew from danger. Below, the White Hoods stood shocked by what they witnessed. One white-hooded figure stood apart. Yakone stared. She recognized something. The figure simply waved and said goodbye. It felt final. She watched quietly as they faded into the distance. Yakone stared at the collapsing door. Tears filled her eyes. She cried out, apologizing to the one she couldn't save. The world they left behind was vanishing into ruin. As debris fell, Yakone soared upward. She promised to return everyone home. The sky opened. The earth cracked. Her wings carried them toward the light, away from destruction. Above the crumbling world, only wind and stone remained. Yakoni flew on, small against the white sky. She held tight to her friends, determined to reach the world beyond. Jets circled above as the massive rift opened, drawing in light and wind. Yakoni collapsed, exhausted. Lulu rushed over, concerned. The sky trembled. Something was pulling everything inward. The rift began to collapse on itself. Shrinking, flesh-like fog and tentacles vanished. Lulu watched, alert. Yakoni slowly sat up, relieved. The danger appeared to be ending at last. Everything was gone. The sky cleared. Yakoni stood beside Lulu, breathing deeply. The strange threat had vanished. She smiled faintly, ready to move forward without fear or hesitation now. A winged creature dropped from the sky. Yakoni slipped from the edge and fell fast. Lulu called out, panicked, eyes locked on her friend as rubble shifted around them. The dust settled. Debris covered the land. From the sky, Lulu and Yakoni soared on their companion's back. Down below, only ruins remained of what once stood proud. Flying above the wreckage, Yakoni saw the moon in daylight. Her eyes softened. The tension left her shoulders. This journey had ended. She whispered Nei's name quietly into the wind. The souls of the fallen were sent toward the moon. Yakoni reflected on what they faced. No regrets remained. The strange creatures and questions were now left behind. Before the collapse, the red fog had spread everywhere. It could have caused more harm. Now the city stood quiet. Yakoni watched closely, knowing change would come again. New sprouts broke through the ground. Trees began to grow. Yakoni stood silently. The land was changing. This world, with all its scars, was still moving forward. New trees grew through the city remains. Yakoni refused to fall. Her voice stayed firm. The world would continue. She forced herself to rise. Nothing could end her resolve. Lulu reached out and helped her stand. Together, they faced forward. The creature waited nearby. Step by step, they moved forward, ready to live in the world they saved. A massive tree now stood in the center of the ruined city. Its roots covered towers. Yakoni stared up, uncertain if it marked an ending or something new. From a distance, the tree looked familiar. Yakoni leaned on Lulu for support. Together, they realized it resembled the one from home. The world was shifting but strangely comforting. Buildings looked cleaner. The skyline reminded Yakoni of Nei's village. Lulu noticed the change too. Was the world healing itself? They walked forward, curious if peace had finally returned. Yakoni recalled what the triangle had said. The red fog returned the world to its old form. Ancient plants now covered the land. They questioned what change still lingered. They spotted the moving ship ahead. Yakoni climbed onto Yago, holding tight. They laughed. Despite the uncertainty, they needed to reach others and confirm if everyone was all right. The land looked stable, but the future remained unclear. The fog had lifted. Life ahead might be harder, but Yakoni knew they had to keep moving no matter what. The world had started to shift. New creatures stepped out from hiding. Yakoni realized this was not the end. Change was happening, and there was still more to witness. More people waited somewhere out there. Her old journey had ended, but something new stood ahead. She looked forward without fear, ready to meet those she had never known. Yakoni smiled as she walked beside her friends. The air felt lighter. She now understood. Despite everything, living in this changing world still felt worthwhile and full of meaning. Buka explored the grass freely, chasing butterflies and flowers. Yakoni followed calmly. The new world was peaceful, but every step still held purpose. They had much left to observe. Yakoni sketched what she noticed. Creatures moved differently now. Some had changed. She recorded it all to help others. Buka played nearby, occasionally watching her with curious little eyes. Yakoni stood, holding her notes. She called Buka and began walking home. Her drawings would explain what was safe. For now, they had survived. That was enough to continue. The land around the city had changed. Nature spread over buildings and rubble. Yakoni walked along a quiet slope, watching butterflies drift past broken glass and soft grass-covered walls. She had returned to a familiar place. Trees swayed in the breeze as butterflies passed overhead. It felt calm. Yakoni paused, then stepped into the clearing without hesitation. Yakoni greeted her friends with a catch in hand. Creatures gathered around her. Lulu stood nearby, quiet but alert, ready to close the link. The next phase had begun. Yakoni returned and spoke with Lulu. The transformations had slowed. Things were stabilizing. She asked about the guards. Lulu welcomed her back with a small smile and calm words. Yakoni hesitated. She considered leaving the red fog behind. Lulu recalled its connection to the triangle heads. If it vanished, so would those changed by it. The choice mattered. Lulu agreed to help the guards. She wanted to protect those still affected. If danger returned, she would face it. Beside her, Yakone stood ready, steady, and without fear. Yakone and Lulu shared fruit with the creatures. The group gathered quickly, curious and hungry. One by one they surrounded Lulu, nudging and sniffing at the pouch she carried. Lulu joked about holding more fruit. The pouch was already empty. The creatures kept searching. Lulu's grin faded. Yakone laughed quietly as the creatures piled up around her friend. They planned the next route using the map. A few towns remained before reaching Yago's village. After a break, everyone prepared to move again, except for one missing companion. Buka had wandered off. Lulu noticed first. They looked around the clearing. Yakone sighed and called out. The little one was always running ahead, curious and unaware of danger. They found Buka near the water, watching something move. Yakone hurried over. Relieved, she told Buka to stay close. Then something unusual shifted in the shallow edge ahead. A winged beast appeared suddenly and grabbed Buka. Yakone shouted and ran forward. Lulu followed quickly. The sky opened as the creature carried Buka across the broken cliffs ahead. Yakone gave chase from above, scanning the ground. She activated Buka's beacon. Lulu called from below. The trail led toward the ravine. Time was short, and danger was rising. Yakone spotted movement below, and made her plan. She asked Lulu and Yago to stay back and continue. She would meet them soon, and bring Buka back safely. Buka cried out as the beast struck. Yakone arrived, landing hard. The enemy growled and swung. She rushed forward without pause. Buka rolled to safety, stunned but still breathing. The impact shook the clearing. Yakone engaged the beast directly. It struck wildly. She dodged, watching for a chance. Buka and Poki stayed back. She needed to end this fast. Yakone lunged, knife in hand. The blade failed to pierce deeply. The beast roared in pain and anger. She gritted her teeth, prepared to strike again before it retaliated. Yakone drove the blade deep into the beast. Blood sprayed. She dropped down, exhausted. The monster stumbled and collapsed. Buka watched silently. The battle was over, but left its marks. Yakone pierced the beast's chest again and again. It collapsed. Blood soaked the ground. She dropped beside Buka, breathing hard. The silence after the fight made her heart pound slower. She checked on Buka and scolded him gently. He nodded with a soft cry. Her hand trembled. Blood covered her fingers. She stayed calm, not ready to stop yet. She gently turned away. Buka stood close. They needed to move. The ground weakened their signal. Yago's beacon wouldn't last. She stayed alert while guiding Buka through the ruins. A sound echoed beyond the wall. Yakone froze. Buka didn't react, but something else moved. She tapped the wall again. Someone was there. It wasn't an animal this time. Yakone crawled through an air duct with Buka close behind. They entered a silent ruin. It was clean and still. She guessed the machines remained active even underground. Inside, the walls responded. Her access was accepted. No creatures had made it in. Yakone assumed it was too deep for fog. She searched for whoever sent the signal. She called out into the quiet hall. No one answered. Buka moved ahead suddenly. Yakone followed quickly, unsure of what was drawing him forward through the untouched corridors. Inside the chamber, Yakone froze. A capsule stood upright. A girl floated inside. The others were empty. Her heart raced. She had found someone who looked just like her. Yakone stepped closer, calling out. The girl remained still. She searched for a way to open the capsule. A voice responded, and the chamber began to release the seal. Steam hissed as the capsule opened. Yakone watched closely. The girl's eyes remained shut. She reached forward carefully. A new question formed in her mind. Was this child alive? Yakone introduced herself gently. The girl blinked and tried to speak. Her voice was weak, but she understood. She said her name softly just before her knees gave out. Yakone caught her in time. She stumbled back from the weight. They crashed together. Surprised, she realized the girl was heavier than expected. Still, she held on without complaint. The girl fell asleep in Yakone's arms. Buka called out from nearby. Yakone answered calmly. She would catch up soon. For now, the girl needed rest and steady care. Yakone stepped into the sunlight and checked the signal. They were finally outside. She called out with relief, excited to reconnect. The device began pinging. A voice soon responded. She confirmed safety with Lulu. Buka was fine too. She showed him on camera to reassure them. She explained the delay. They had been underground and out of contact. Yakone looked down at the girl beside her. She told Lulu she found her near where Buka was taken. Not just any child, someone just like her. A human. The girl slowly woke up in bed. Her eyes opened weakly. Buka was beside her. She whispered softly. Unsure where she was, she stared at the quiet room around her. She sat up and looked at her hands. Her fingers curled gently. Buka stood nearby. Without a word, she climbed out of bed. Her eyes scanned the space carefully. She followed the sound of voices. Buka trailed close. She stepped quietly into the hallway. The room was warm. She reached forward to touch something new and soft, then smiled. Yakone found the girl awake early. She greeted her, surprised. The girl asked if Yakone was her mother. Yakone denied it gently. Confusion mixed with curiosity filled the air. They sat down to talk. Yakone asked questions about the girl's past. She couldn't remember much. Yakone pointed to the strange patterns. The girl admitted she didn't understand them either. The girl showed markings on her leg. She couldn't remove them. Yakone noticed they were also on her shoulder and forehead. They guessed they might be tattoos or something similar. Yakone saw the girl still couldn't remember anything. She stood to get water. The girl stopped her with a small voice. She didn't want to be left behind again. Yakone apologized and smiled. She offered her hand and asked if the girl wanted to come along. The girl nodded, holding it tightly. Buka followed right behind them. The girl stepped into the sunlight and gasped. Her eyes widened at the layered village. Shapes and colors blended into something new. The world outside was nothing like she imagined. She followed Yakone down the walkway. Strange beings passed by, working or talking. Each one moved with purpose. Everything felt unfamiliar, yet no one paid them any unwanted attention. Yakone smiled gently as the girl stared. She explained the village. It was full of different people. The girl clutched Buka tightly. It was surprising, but not frightening. Yakone explained that everyone here was different, but still people. In the past, monsters filled the outside. People lived in hiding, but now it was safe. Life could begin again. She asked if the girl could still walk. The girl stood with effort and nodded. Yakone promised to show her more. Around them, the village buzzed with calm energy. Yakone greeted someone nearby. The man noticed the girl. He guessed she was the child from the ruins. Yakone confirmed it. The girl replied that she was comfortable now. Yakone confirmed the job was done. The girl watched quietly. Yakone asked for the back room. With help, the girl slipped into the new outfit, one sleeve at a time. The clothes fit her well. She stepped out, adjusting the sleeves. Explained they had processed her outfit. It was better than having nothing. She thanked them politely. The girl bowed and thanked the kind uncle. He smiled back. Everyone looked satisfied. As the sky darkened, the village settled quietly under the moonlight's calm presence. Lulu stood quietly on the balcony, moonlight brushing her hair. She stared at the child, unsure of their origin. Still, she hoped to find a family before danger struck again. Maps glowed under starlight as she and Yakone reviewed safe zones. The dome town looked promising. They agreed it was safer than wandering. Lulu would prepare while Yakone stayed behind. With a final nod, Lulu entrusted Yago, Poki, and Mui Mui to Yakone. Warm food settled between them. The child chewed quietly as night wrapped around their peaceful, uncertain shelter. Yakone checked the child's comfort as they gathered supplies. With morning light rising, she announced their journey would continue. The group stepped forward, ready to travel again through quiet ruins. Yakone watched Buka wobble along while instructing the child to speak up if tired. She decided it was time. Looking into the child's eyes, she gently gave her a name. The child spoke it softly. Alpha. It meant something. She smiled, feeling noticed. Yakone nodded. Buka followed. The girl repeated it again with care. Her journey. Alpha smiled and nodded when asked. The name felt right. Yakone raised her hand and called out. With Buka waddling beside them, the three stepped forward to continue their journey. The group moved away from Dome Town. Yakone checked in by radio, confirming safety. Alpha and Buka walked ahead. Curious and quiet, Alpha kept pace. But something strange caught her attention. Buka suddenly stopped. Alpha pointed. A dark object had fallen from his body. She called out, confused. Yakone watched closely, already uneasy. Alpha declared it steaming, thinking it might be food. Yakone frowned and warned her. Alpha looked down again, eyes wide. More had come from herself. She stood in silence. Yakone shouted in shock, unsure what was happening to the girl. They stopped by a river. Yakone washed her hands while Alpha sat nearby, silent. She looked embarrassed. Yakone smiled, reminding her that rest was needed. Buka watched from the shade. Alpha sat quietly, unsure about her body. Yakone explained things simply. She listened closely, confused but curious. Yakone offered patience. Alpha learned what to expect from eating and daily living. Shocked, Alpha asked if Yakone was the same. Yakone hesitated but confirmed. Alpha laughed. Her body was strange, but learning helped. Together, they shared a light meal beside the river. Yakone checked their food but decided to save the rations. Instead, she led the group to search for bugs. Alpha followed closely, curious and ready to help with the search. They found a flat stone. Yakone explained insects might be beneath it. Buka pushed first. Alpha tried to lift but struggled. Yakone advised her to think and work smartly instead. Using a small rock and stick, Yakone built a lever. Buka helped place it. Alpha joined in, grabbing the end of the stick. Together they prepared to lift the stone. With a push, the rock flipped. Alpha stumbled but held tight. Underneath, bugs crawled in every direction. Yakone smiled with pride. Alpha stared, unsure how to react to what she saw. Yakone shouted to catch them fast. Alpha nodded and joined. She froze at the wriggling bugs. Yakone moved quickly. Alpha stepped back. Buka watched, tilting his head at her hesitation. Yakone asked if something was wrong. Buka made noise. From behind, a massive frog appeared. It swallowed a bug. The group froze, startled. Alpha pointed in shock at the hungry creature. The frog gobbled up everything. Yakone shouted, frustrated. Alpha apologized, feeling responsible. Yakone gently reassured her, then pointed forward. They still had a chance. The target was big and within reach. Yakone raised her voice, warning Alpha and Buka. With firm grip, she spun the net high. Alpha watched closely. The frog sat unaware. Yakone aimed carefully and struck with force. The net struck hard. The frog collapsed with a thud. Yakone dashed forward without pause, jumping over rocks. Her focus stayed locked as she raced to pin down the target. Yakone struck again, holding the frog in place. The job was done. Alpha called out. Yakone waved, smiling. She declared the area safe and began preparing it for their meal. Together, they moved the frog. Yakone explained each step. Wash the blood, clean the body, then slice the belly. Alpha listened carefully, ready to help with their first real feast. Yakone guided Alpha through the process. They cut off the head, peeled the skin, and removed the belly. Buka stayed close. Alpha watched quietly, focused on everything she was learning. They rinsed the meat and gathered sticks. The fire was started. Flames crackled under the setup. Yakone placed the meat while Alpha waited nearby. The cooking had officially begun. Smoke rose. They sat and waited. Yakone explained it needed time. Alpha looked thoughtful. Then, with hesitation, she turned toward Yakone and spoke, unsure how to express what she felt. As the frog cooked, Alpha asked if it was right. Yakone paused, explaining that eating meant ending other lives. It was how they survived. Alpha looked down, unsure how to feel. Alpha questioned why some creatures were spared. Yakone explained that friends are different. She would not eat Buka. Alpha listened closely, wondering how to understand who was safe and who wasn't. Yakone said it depended. Survival required choices. Even the frog had eaten bugs. Alpha looked around. She whispered if everyone lived by taking. Yakone nodded. They walked silently beneath the sky. Yakone reminded Alpha that even plants live. Everything eats and gets eaten. Alpha held Buka tight. Yakone promised to protect her. One day Alpha would grow strong enough to do the same. Yakone explained that all people protect their loved ones by choosing what to take and give. Alpha listened quietly. She understood a little more. The frog sizzled over the fire. The food was ready. Alpha thanked the meal as Yakone watched. When asked, Yakone explained it was like a prayer. A small act of respect for the life they took. Yakone explained the meaning of prayer. It was to give thanks, to survive another day. Alpha listened quietly, then joined in. She clapped her hands and spoke her first words of gratitude. Alpha ate slowly. Her chest felt light. Yakone told her not to forget that feeling. Alpha nodded, her heart calm. She smiled softly and called out to Yakone with warmth. They finished the meal. Alpha called it a feast. Yakone agreed. With full stomachs and dry clothes, the group stood again. Their journey wasn't over. Together, they moved forward once more. Yakone told Alpha and Buka to wait. She walked off behind a rock. Alpha promised to stay, but her thoughts quickly wandered. Curiosity grew in her eyes as moments passed. Alpha glanced at the rock. She leaned forward. A question formed. Was it what she thought? Buka blinked. Alpha called out loudly, asking Yakone if it was something embarrassing. Yakone returned, flustered. She admitted it was shameful but natural. Alpha accepted it without judgment. The three stood together again. Another odd but honest moment passed between them in silence.